Cada um faz a sua reverência à sua namorada, a mulher a seu marido, a seu namorado. Então, eu acho que todo mundo gostaria de poder fazer o que eu vou fazer agora. Minha mulher está na Europa, mas está assistindo agora. Poder dizer à mulher que ama, Desirê, te amo, feliz dia dos namorados. Estou falando em nome de todo mundo, de todos os brasileiros, que é uma coisa bonita e bacana. Depois você diga para o Felipe Massa que o campeonato dele, o Racing Festival, teve 2 corridas hoje, o Cacá Bueno ganhou uma, o Alan Kodair ganhou a segunda, o Cacá Bueno é líder do campeonato, o Popó Bueno é segundo colocado no campeonato, e foi um sucesso em Brasília. Diga para o Felipe que essa iniciativa dele, e principalmente nos carrinhos, na Fórmula Futura, onde ele está abrindo o caminho para novos futuros, meninos de 16, 17 anos, e abrindo o caminho para novos pilotos chegarem aí na Fórmula 1, que é o que a gente quer. Vamos para a volta de apresentação. Reginaldo Leme, e agora? Acerta no tempo seco, é a primeira vez que eles vão correr com pista molhada, hein?
Boa tarde, amigo da Globo. É a primeira vez que esse pneu, todo mundo sabe, o novo fornecedor, que é a Pirelli, é a primeira vez que esse pneu vai para uma corrida. Já foi testado com chuva, já foi até com chuva forçada, chuva artificial. Molharam a pista artificialmente para testar e tudo mais, mas é a primeira vez que vai para uma corrida. O Vettel é muito importante para a gente ver se o Vettel, que ele é essa coisa toda que a gente tem visto em pista seca, se ele é também na pista molhada. O Vettel simplesmente venceu 8 das últimas 9 corridas que disputou e desde o Grande Prêmio de Singapura de 2010 ele não fica fora da primeira fila. É o favorito da corrida. Agora, o Alonso é muito bom de chuva, sempre mostrou isso, e vamos torcer bastante para uma boa corrida do Felipe.
Bom lembrar, Reginaldo, que a primeira vitória do Vettel foi debaixo de chuva em Monza. Ele ganhou ainda correndo na STR. Luciano Burti, dizem que quando chove, quando tá assim, aí mesmo é que o melhor carro faz mais diferença ainda. A Red Bull vai fazer mais diferença ou será que a Ferrari pode estar até mais equilibrada?
Boa tarde a todos. Tem uma coisa que conta muito aí, Galvão. A previsão era de chuva para hoje e algumas equipes, no caso que eu ouvi dizer McLaren e Renault, focaram no acerto do carro, acerto aerodinâmico para a chuva. Então, sacrificaram um pouco o desempenho na tomada de tempo que foi com a pista seca para poder ter um rendimento melhor na chuva. Nesse caso, se isso conferir e for verdade, eles podem levar uma vantagem. Então, mesmo a RBR sendo o carro mais rápido, o acerto deles é para a pista seca, assim como talvez também a Ferrari. Então, McLaren e Renault podem ter mais pressão aerodinâmica, mais aderência e levar vantagem. Além disso, fica de olho nos pneus, né? Aparentemente está todo mundo com os pneus de chuva, de verdade, que até o rádio do Schumacher falou isso agora há pouco. E alguns podem tentar daqui a pouco o pneu intermediário, né? A gente vê a diferença aqui, o de chuva. O texto no pneu ali escrito a marca é em vermelho e o intermediário em azul claro. Vamos ver o que acontece.
E o Hamilton é um especialista em chuva, né? Sempre lembrando, o Hamilton, corrida em chuva, é com ele mesmo.
Muito bem, aí estão os carros andando pelo circuito de Montreal, que exige muito. É um circuito muito exigente. Tem essa chicane que traz ali para a curva dos campeões, tá valendo já. Nós já vão para a segunda volta, porque é atrás do carro de segurança, e quando o carro de segurança entrar, eles aceleram, mas veja lá que já aparece, eles estão na segunda das 70 voltas da corrida no circuito, que tem 4.361 metros.
Só uma coisinha, não é vermelha, é laranja o pneu de chuva, e o Alguersuari também mostrou, vai largar dos boxes.
Mas se vai largar dos boxes, faz como? Vocês já estão teoricamente na segunda volta da corrida, o cara larga dos boxes, como é que faz? Como é que funciona?
O certo seria ele ter, assim que os carros passaram, a primeira vez ele sair atrás, né?
Exatamente.
Então, mas eu digo assim, ele era o lugar que estava, já está em último, Galvão, então ele saiu, ele está acompanhando já o grid.
Assim que passa na primeira volta, ele acompanha.
Se eu não me engano, ele era 18º, agora ele é o último.
Vou te dizer o lugar que ele estava aqui, o Alguersuari, 18ª posição. Carlos Gil tem informações.
Boa tarde, Galvão. Boa tarde a todos. A respeito do que o Burt falou agora há pouco, realmente confere. O que se comenta por aqui, sobretudo a McLaren fez sim um acerto de chuva ontem, já pensando na possibilidade de hoje, e com isso tentar, né, sacrificar o trem de classificação em nome de um bom desempenho na corrida. E ontem também comentávamos durante o treino de classificação sobre o Jérôme D'Ambrosio, da Virgin, né, que não cumpriu aquele 107%. No entanto, ele foi autorizado a largar por 3 motivos levados em consideração pelos comissários. Ele teve tempo dentro do limite em pelo menos uma sessão, a primeira sessão de treinos livres. Ele vem tendo regularidade na temporada em relação a ficar dentro do limite de 107%. E ele também teve necessidade de reparos no chassi que duraram toda a noite de sexta para sábado. Então isso acabou prejudicando na classificação.
Então faz o seguinte, tira essa lei, porque toda hora tem uma justificativa para deixar participar, esquece, risca, apaga, passa borracha. que o rádio falou com o Felipe ali?
O engenheiro do Felipe dizendo que daqui a 15 a 20 minutos a chuva vem e vem forte. Então já tá... O rádio de Schumacher disse que não ia chover, não estava chovendo no momento, estava todo mundo com pena de chuva, mas que não chovia, enquanto que o rádio do Felipe falou, tá bom, né? Não tá chovendo, mas já tá preparando ele para si ter uma noção, até o lado psicológico é importante, que a chuva vai vir e vai vir forte.
Eles estão aí, isso funciona muito mais com o porquê de dar 3 voltas, já estão na volta número 3. Para quê? Para sentir a pista, para questão de segurança, os pilotos nunca tinham andado nessas condições, mas também por mais rápido, e anda rápido, hein, o carro de segurança. Não pensa que é brincadeira não, que o cara toca forte. Anda rápido, mas...
Tem os dois lados, o rádio do Hamilton.
Vamos ouvir o rádio do Hamilton.
Lewis, how are the conditions?
Ó, Galvão, até respondendo o que você perguntou, geralmente eles dão algumas voltas para os pilotos sentirem aonde está escorregando mais, se tem alguma poça d'água, que é sempre um problema para o carro aquaplanar, aí que mora o grande perigo, e para sentirem realmente a pista. E o engenheiro acabou de perguntar para o Hamilton, bom, como é que está a situação? Ele falou, tá molhado, mas, né, tá molhado, mas as condições são normais, a visibilidade não é tão ruim. Então a pista tá ok, quer dizer, tem muito que largar.
Olha como é lindo aí a ilha de Notre Dame, é muito bonito o circuito. Agora tem uma coisa, ele disse que a visibilidade tá boa porque eles não estão acelerando. Como tem muro dos dois lados, em determinado trecho de alta da pista tem muro dos dois lados, a água não tem ponto de sair. Então a água do carro da frente, do mais outro, do mais outro, do mais outro, fica tudo rodando por ali. Ela fica rodando por ali, aí não se vê nada.
Essa história de carro de segurança nas primeiras voltas com a pista molhada é simplesmente porque não houve nenhum treino com pista molhada. Se tivesse havido, o regulamento exigiria uma largada, a não ser que fosse uma tormenta, né? A não ser uma chuva muito forte.
Aliás, o regulamento já teve escrito no regulamento em outras épocas, que quando você treinava a sexta e o sábado inteiro sem chuva, e chovia desde cedo no domingo, tinha aquele antigo warm-up.
Meia hora de...
Tinha um treino de 15 minutos, que era exatamente para você poder amolecer. O que é preparar para a chuva? Você amolece mola, você muda fica tudo mais macio, para o carro rolar mais de um lado para o outro, né?
Agora, 3 voltas é o suficiente para um piloto de Fórmula 1 saber como é. E realmente vai entrar. É na 4ª volta, mas vai entrar. Quer dizer, vai valer a corrida de fato a partir da 5ª volta.
Acho mais legal quando tinha aquela coisa, então é isso, então tá. Então 3 horas antes da corrida, 15 minutinhos para todo mundo entrar na pista e sentir a pista molhada.
O problema é que nos últimos anos o regulamento é de parque fechado, que se chama, né?
Exatamente.
Acaba a classificação, o carro não pode ser mexido em acerto, não pode ser trocado algumas coisas sem a supervisão dos comissários, então... por isso que eu falei que algumas equipes como McLaren e Renault focaram em fazer o acerto pensando na corrida, porque como você não pode mudar o acerto de asa, de mola, de nada, acaba que tem que ir como tá.
Mas acaba fazendo um acerto no imaginário, né? Porque não tinha pista molhada.
Imaginário, exatamente.
Acaba fazendo um acerto no imaginário. Vamos lá, vamos para a largada. Olha, prepara o seu coração porque vai ser emocionante, hein? Nessa pista já é emocionante. Em 2 pontos será possível usar a asa, abrir a asa para ganhar, diminuir o efeito, diminuir o drag. Mas na chuva tem a coisa que não pode. Então, vamos ver, porque já mostraram ali que não poderia. Mas com chuva vai ser uma corrida de arrepiar. Veja só que o Vettel, ele que determina ali o ritmo. Ele já diminuiu depois da curva do grampo. Ele vai para a grande reta que leva ali para a chicane, que traz para o muro dos campeões, onde eles praticamente entram dentro do muro e saem. E ele agora acelera. E agora é largado. O Alonso vem coladinho ali atrás dele, ó. Fez muito bem a largada o Alonso, hein? Nessa aceleração o Alonso veio muito bem, já começa a querer dar trabalho, já começa a querer mostrar o bico do carro. O Alonso força, o Vettel vem ali, o Felipe Massa com isso se aproveita e se aproxima dos dois. Eles então vêm completando a volta, entrando na volta número 4, o Vettel se segura, o Felipe tenta sair, o Alonso pressiona, o Felipe tá ali atrás, esperando para ver o que vai acontecer. Ele tá esperando, olha só, o Alonso espalhou. O Alonso espalhou, e ali atrás o Weber. O Weber se toca, com o Hamilton, o Weber já vai vir mais um toque do Hamilton, depois vamos ver com calma o que aconteceu, mas é mais um toque do Hamilton, com a espalhada do Alonso. Não foi o suficiente para que o Felipe Massa fizesse a ultrapassagem, e com isso sobrou um pouquinho mais na frente. Você está vendo aí o Hamilton, olha só, o Hamilton que se tocou com o Weber rodou, ficou na contramão, virou o carro, O Vettel é o primeiro, Alonso é o segundo, Massa é o terceiro, Rosberg é o quarto, Button é o quinto, Schumacher é o sexto, Hamilton é o sétimo. E o Schumacher já vai passando ali, o Schumacher na água, amigo. Olha só, o Schumacher com pista molhada cansou de dar show, para show inesquecível. Vamos ver até que ponto ele vai. Ele já fez ali a ultrapassagem, ele já passou o Button.
Hamilton.
Com pista molhada, ele é Schumacher. Agora vamos ver o Hamilton. O Hamilton tá por fora, o Schumacher tá por dentro. O Hamilton vai espalhar lá fora. O Hamilton vai espalhar lá fora, o Schumacher veio por dentro. E o Weber perdeu tantas posições, o Mark Webber caiu muito. Vou tentar achar aqui o Weber, onde é que ele tá. Em que posição tá o Weber? Tem que procurar. Eu não sei nem se ele ali... Aqui eu não tô achando no computador o Mark Webber. Aí você tá vendo o Nico Rosberg, o Schumacher. Tem que esperar a volta, porque quando ele aparece em quarto no computador, não é a posição dele. O computador não está atualizado. Ele aparece em quarto, mas o primeiro é Vettel, o segundo é Alonso, o terceiro é Massa, o quarto é Rosberg, o quinto é Schumacher, o sexto é Hamilton, o sétimo é Button. O Weber aparece na 14ª posição, o Rubens Barrichello é o 16º. Custou 10 posições aquele toque do Weber com o Lewis Hamilton. Mas mais uma vez o Lewis Hamilton se envolve num toque. E olha, o rendimento do Felipe é melhor que o rendimento do Alonso. Ele vem ali, ele vem preso pela posição do Alonso. O Vettel já escapa lá na frente e o Felipe Massa vem preso pela posição do Alonso. E o Hamilton continua ali pressionando. Ele tem os dois carros da Mercedes na frente dele. Olha a balançada que deu ali, o Schumi, como deu uma balançada ali na frente dele. E aí a visão que o piloto tem, amigo. Muro dos dois lados, a água não tem por onde escapar, não tem por onde sair. E aí você já deve ter vivido isso, Guti. Eu nunca me esqueço uma coisa que o Gugelmin disse numa grande corrida que ele fez em Silverstone com chuva, que ele diz o seguinte: você vê duas manchas, uma mais clara e outra mais escura. Olha só o Hamilton com o Schumacher igualzinho. O Hamilton está tentando no lugar errado e agora errou de novo, vai perder posição. Agora ele perde posição, inclusive para o Jenson Button que vinha atrás dele. O Hamilton está muito afoito em todas as corridas. Ele está muito afoito em todas as corridas. E o Felipe está apertando para cima do Alonso. Claramente o rendimento do Felipe é melhor, ele está apertando para cima do Alonso. Olha só, você vai ver aí a repetição como o Alonso tentou. O Vettel se defendeu e se a chegada na primeira largada. O Hamilton vem. E agora? Eu deixo para vocês dois. Mas para mim, eu chamaria
a culpa foi do corrida. A culpa foi... É incidente de corrida, sim.
Mas mais uma vez do Hamilton.
Mas é do Hamilton que alongou a roda direita dele alongou acima do traçado. Quer ver? Olha lá. Culpa dele.
Hamilton de novo. Vamos ver o que o Emerson vai falar. Burt.
Acidente de corrida, mas ao mesmo tempo tem que ter o bom senso, né? Você vê que é uma largada, a primeira curva, ele não estava tão próximo assim, mesmo assim se jogou para dentro. O toque não foi proposital.
Claro que não.
Mas o Weber acabou perdendo aí várias posições por um erro do Hamilton. Então o Hamilton vacilou, na minha opinião.
O Emerson é um grande fã do Hamilton, isso ele sempre me falou. E nós conversamos bastante aí quando ele alongou na curva em cima do Schumacher. Antes dele ir para o Canadá, a gente conversou longamente por telefone.
Deixa a gente falar aquele mais, porque não fique para trás, você conta a história depois. Você viu ali como o que o Schumacher fez. A segunda vez que o Hamilton foi por fora, ele deixou o carro sair um pouquinho. Nem tocou no Hamilton, o Hamilton foi lá fora e perdeu posição.
Até porque querer passar o Schumacher por fora numa freada de hairpin não faz sentido também.
Não faz. Por isso que eu digo que o Hamilton, ele não está no seu melhor momento. Olha o Vettel passando reto, olha o Vettel passando reto. Sozinho lá na frente, o Vettel, é repetição, mas o Vettel passando reto. Vamos ter vários momentos desses na corrida, e agora o Hamilton deve estar com a cabeça mais quente ainda. Olha lá. Carro número 2 é o carro do Weber, e o número 3 é o carro do Hamilton. E olha só, olha lá.
Dois companheiros aqui.
E outra vez o Hamilton envolvido no toque.
E agora está fora da corrida.
Ele está fora, agora o Hamilton está fora da corrida, abandona a corrida. Em 3 voltas de corrida, ele bateu no Weber. Ele não tinha nada que voltar ali, tinha que ter parado o carro. Ele não está num momento bom de cabeça. Ele bateu no Weber, ele forçou para cima do Schumacher onde não devia. Ele bateu com o companheiro de equipe agora e vai forçar o carro de segurança. E o que ele faz com aquela suspensão quebrada? Já tinha que ter parado o carro ali. Vamos ver o Button.
Pelo que eu entendi o Button falando aqui, meio falando alto, né? Tipo, o que ele tá fazendo? Porque ele causou um safety car totalmente errado. Isso, ele tinha que ter parado ali, como você falou, Galvão, tinha que ter parado. Ele sabe que bateu, tá fora. E ali o Hamilton saiu melhor da curva, da última curva ali, onde tem o Muro dos Campeões, que o Button. Ia colocar do lado, mas o Button que tá na frente, quando você olha pelo espelho retrovisor, com spray d'água você não vê nada. Quem tem a responsabilidade de tomar o cuidado é quem vem atrás. O Button não viu o Hamilton colocou onde não cabia e bateu.
Tá feliz o Rondenes? Você viu ele saindo ali atrás? E ali, quem tá à frente são dois amigos do Hamilton. Um deles é um cantor de rap.
E o Rondenes virou as costas e saiu andando. Aí tá o Hamilton, ele agora vê ali, ele vai dizer que não viu, que estava quebrado o eixo traseiro, por isso que ele continuou, pode até ser. Mas a verdade, sabe o que mais me preocupa de todas as declarações que o Hamilton deu para a TV inglesa, que depois teve que pedir desculpa aos comissários, vamos ver a repetição, vamos ver a repetição, vamos ver a repetição. Ele é muito rápido, gente, ele é muito rápido. O Button tá na linha dele e não tem por onde passar. Me dá essa sensação que não tinha por onde passar.
O Button não esperava que ele fosse ali, né? Você vê que o Button não é que ele de repente ele faz uma manobra mais... vira o carro mais para proteger a posição. Ali até ele estava mudando o traçado progressivamente, o Hamilton saiu bem melhor da curva, tinha mais velocidade. Sim. E enfiou onde não cabia. Que não falei, o Button, quando olha para o espelho retrovisor, não enxerga. O spray da roda traseira faz com que você não enxergue o que vem atrás. Então, acredito que ele não tenha visto e por isso o cuidado tinha que ter sido do Hamilton, na minha opinião.
Antes de você terminar a história que você está falando do Emerson, o que me preocupa, vamos ver a repetição dele. Ele vem com muito mais ação. O Button botou para se defender ali. Ele tem direito, é bom que se diga que ele tem direito de uma mudança de linha. Bom, duas ele não pode.
Para começar, a posição que o Hamilton assume para fazer a ultrapassagem está errada. O normal seria ele ir pelo outro lado, que é o de dentro da curva, ali na frente. Ali.
Bom, aí é uma discussão de como é que ele vai tomar a curva ou não. Eu quero dizer uma coisa, minha opinião.
Eu digo que ali era claro que o Button ia fazer a tomada, você entendeu?
O Hamilton é um piloto fantástico. Excepcional. Aí o pai dele, que não está mais trabalhando com ele, houve um certo desentendimento entre eles, o pai tomou seu caminho, ele tomou o dele. O primeiro incidente envolvendo os carros do Mark Webber e do Hamilton não vai ter nada, o Hamilton já está fora, o Webber parece que não tinha culpa na história, e vamos ver o Button.
O Button perguntando se tinha algum... que ele parou nos boxes, né, para trocar os pneus, e perguntou para a equipe se tinha algum defeito no carro, e responderam que parece que não. Eu só não vi o tipo de pneu que o Button colocou, se é de chuva intermediária, mas aparentemente o carro tá ok.
Eu estava dizendo que de toda a entrevista, que depois ele teve que pedir desculpa aos comissários, pedir desculpa pessoalmente ao Maldonado e pessoalmente ao Felipe Massa, ele disse, assisti ao filme de Ayrton Senna. Agora eu entendo bem porque ele era perseguido da mesma forma com que eu estou sendo perseguido. Por outras palavras, ele se comparou ao Ayrton Senna. Isso é que está preocupando.
Tipo assim, é o melhor de todos, sempre perseguido por ser o melhor de todos. Mas eu só complementando o que eu dizia, que o Emerson, um fã assumido do talento do Hamilton, como eu sou, como muita gente.
Todos nós aqui somos.
Eu também.
E a gente,
todos nós somos.
Exatamente, falou sobre isso, sobre a corrida de Mônaco, as 3 vezes, não foram duas bateu, mas as 3 vezes, uma foi sobre o Schumacher. Olha aí, ex-mulher do Rondenes, a Lisa.
Lisa, ex-mulher do Rondenes, sempre muito presente, volta agora à Fórmula 1, mas eu queria mostrar ali, Reginaldo, olha lá, o incidente envolvendo os carros 3 e 4, esse incidente do carro do Hamilton com o Jenson Button, está sob investigação.
E realmente a gente ouviu a entrevista com o Carlos Gil aí, com o Emerson, antes da corrida, ele dizendo que ele reviu todas as imagens, ele sabe aquilo que a gente estava comentando, eu mesmo até chamei a atenção dele em relação ao exagero do Hamilton no Canadá. A primeira sobre o Schumacher, e o Schumacher recuou e deixou a ultrapassagem. Em Mônaco, perdão, na corrida de Mônaco. A segunda em cima do Felipe Massa, já foi afoito demais, já botou o Felipe para fora. A terceira foi muito pior, que foi em cima do Pastor Maldonado, um piloto o estreante do ano, que ia chegar em 6º em Mônaco. Imagine o que representava isso para o Maldonado. Então o Hamilton, sim, está merecendo não a punição de corrida, agora ele está merecendo daquelas punições, eu falei isso em Mônaco, daquelas punições que se sobrepõem ao próprio evento, ou seja, punindo com perda de posições no grid na corrida seguinte.
Como já aconteceu, mas eu acima de tudo acho que desde que o pai deixou cuidar da carreira dele e ele passou a ter a carreira cuidada por uma pessoa que é do show business, uma pessoa que é de show, que monta shows de teatro, shows de televisão, passou a tratá-lo como um artista, uma coisa nesse sentido, ele mudou a cabeça e aí me parece estar o problema.
No rádio do Button, deu pra ver agora que ele tá com um pneu intermediário, é o único na pista, dos carros que eu vi, que tem o pneu intermediário, que faz sentido, porque você vê que tá começando a formar um traçado ali onde a pista não está tão molhada, então o Button pode render melhor, mas ele perguntou, e a chuva, vai vir? Eles falaram, ó, parece que sim, mas não deve ser forte. Você vê que as informações não batem, né? Passaram pro Felipe, que é uma chuva forte, agora passam pro Button, que uma chuva não é tão forte. Então cada equipe tem a sua fonte de informação, mas não estão combinando muito.
Muito bem, tivemos até agora 10 voltas, estamos na volta de número 11, largamos com o carro de segurança, temos de novo o carro de segurança, tivemos o Hamilton em 4 voltas de corrida envolvido em 3 problemas, agora ele está fora da prova, nós tivemos o Vettel já passando reto numa curva, tivemos o Felipe Massa mostrando que está andando mais do que o Alonso, e tem agora também um outro incidente envolvendo o carro número 3 e 4, que são os carros de Hamilton e de Button, por excesso de velocidade enquanto estavam atrás do carro de segurança.
Os carros agora têm um sensor que, enquanto tem o carro de segurança, mesmo que ele não esteja em fila, ele tem que respeitar um limite de velocidade. Acho que o Button saiu do box, talvez seja isso, né? Saiu do box e andou mais rápido do que deveria. Tem uma luz amarela no volante que diz o limite de velocidade.
Vamos ver o Weber.
Yeah, when we do a pit stop, Mark, when we get to that point, we're thinking of a steering wheel change.
O Weber está com um problema de câmbio, mas é na aleta do volante de redução de marcha.
Quando borboleta.
Borboleta, desculpa, borboleta. Que quando ele aperta não está reduzindo direito, então durante o pit stop eles pretendem trocar o volante do Weber.
Olha só, também é rápido, troca rapidinho o volante. Eles estão na volta número 12, portanto, Globo, a gente se liga em você.
Santander Master, o cheque especial do Banco dos Juntos.
Olha lá, envolvendo o carro 4, velocidade com o safety car na pista, que o Bor dizia, é o carro do Jenson Button, e o Vettel quer conversar com a equipe.
Okay, Sebastian, so you know we have Button who has pitted and fitted inters. We'll keep a close eye on him.
O engenheiro do Vettel informando que o Button está com pneus intermediários, como a gente falou agora há pouco. Então, falou assim, vamos prestar atenção para ver o desempenho dele e aí saber se vale a pena de repente parar no box para trocar o pneu ou não.
Nessas condições, Reginaldo, se não voltar a chover, ele estando com o pneu intermediário vai se dar bem.
Vai se dar bem, mas ele está bem atrás e ainda tem essa provável punição a pagar.
Está em 12º.
Provável punição, né? Que se ele for punido aí com uma passagem pelo box, o Vettel segurando, o Alonso teve que sair, o Felipe teve que sair de trás do Alonso ali.
Mas faz parte do jogo, isso faz parte do jogo. Isso aí tem...
Claro, a velocidade quem dita é o primeiro colocado.
Desde que ele esteja dentro do mínimo e do máximo, ele que dita ali o primeiro colocado, porque ele que vai dar o pé. Ele que dá o pé agora, na hora que o carro de segurança, o safety car libera a pista, quem dá o primeiro pé é ele. Então ele que veja que as luzes se apagaram, ele tá por ali e nós vamos pra relargada. O Alonso vai tentar o ataque de novo, o Felipe Massa vem lá atrás, o Schumacher já vem pra cima do Rosberg. Os dois já entram juntos ali na chicane que vai trazer em sexto o Heidfeld. E você vê aí a sequência. Depois do Vitaly Petrov e Weber, o Weber já ganhou 5 posições, ele estava em 14º, ele já ganhou 5 posições, e o Weber gosta desse tipo de corrida, ele faz muito bem esse tipo de corrida de recuperação. E nesse momento veja que o spray de água que tem aí é menor, o spray que tem de água menor, vamos ficar de olho no Button, ver se ele consegue fazer as ultrapassagens. O Jenson Button que parou no box e tem a 12ª posição. E olha o Weber como vai tentando abrir caminho, sem enxergar direito, né? Mas vai tentando abrir caminho. Vai tentando abrir caminho o Mark Webber, que nesse momento ele tem, repito, a 9ª posição, o Mark Webber, e à frente dele está o Petrov. É o Petrov da Renault que está à frente dele, e aí?
Aí, punição do Button.
O carro número 4, que é o carro do Jenson Button, vai ter que passar pelo box. E aí o que acontece? Toda a vantagem que ele poderia ter por já ter trocado os pneus, acaba, porque se não viesse a chuva, todo mundo ia ter que entrar com o intermediário. Ele já entrou com o intermediário, mas aí essa vantagem acaba. Não era um dia da McLaren, o Ron Dennis vai ficar mais satisfeito ainda, porque o Hamilton está fora e o Button praticamente sai da corrida em 12º, vai passar pelos boxes, vai voltar na última posição, o Jenson Button.
Tirando todas as chances de Button. O Button é o cara disparado, o cara mais gentil da Fórmula 1, é o piloto mais gentil, com os companheiros de equipe, com todos os outros pilotos. Vocês vão ver, a reclamação dele vai ser muito comedida, mas ele tem muita razão, de sobra para reclamar de tudo.
Existia esse termo mais antigo nas corridas, que se falava do gentleman drive. Quer dizer, o piloto, que além de tudo era um homem gentil, fazia parte do charme do piloto de Fórmula 1. Hoje a galera vai pra cima mesmo, acelera, toca em cima do outro, não tem muito essa história não. Mas o Button é realmente uma pessoa muito educada, muito tranquilo, fala muito baixo, mesmo quando se revolta, aceita bem as questões, pondera. E olha só como vai apertando ali o Mark Webber. Ele continua apertando para cima do Petrov. Na frente do Petrov está o Heidfeld, as duas Renaults. Aí você vê Rosberg, você vê Schumacher. Logo atrás do Schumacher esse sempre, cada dia melhor Kobayashi. Cada dia melhor o japonês. Cada dia o japonês anda melhor na Fórmula 1. Está ali na 6ª posição.
Na frente, Galvão, o Vettel abriu 2 segundos.
Segurando o Felipe, e eles estão perdendo contato com isso, né? A Ferrari já uma vez mandou trocar, né? Vocês lembram disso?
Na situação inversa, né?
Tá bom.
Eu acho estranho o Vettel ter aberto uma diferença tão grande assim, porque eles estão com o mesmo pneu. Então é realmente o Alonso que não está bem e que está segurando o ritmo do Felipe.
Olha, a volta anterior, o Vettel fez 1:33,3. Agora o Alonso fez 1:34,2, fez a melhor volta dele na prova. E o Felipe atrás dele fez 1:34,6, não fez uma volta tão boa assim. 1:35,5 o tempo do Rosberg, está segurando o Schumacher, que com 1:35,6 fez a melhor volta dele na corrida. E aí o Button tem um limite para parar, para passar pelo boxe. Ele vai tentando ganhar posições, ele está atrás de Rubens Barrichello. Nesse momento ele está exatamente atrás de Rubens Barrichello. Ele tem a 14ª posição, o Rubinho tem a 13ª posição. O Button bota ali para cima o carro com o Rubinho nem briga muito, pode ter sido avisado até pelo boxe de que ele vai ter que parar agora. Então não vale a pena perder tempo de ficar bloqueando e tentando segurar o Button. Ele já pagou, perdão, ele já pagou, claro. Por isso que ele voltou naquela posição. Ele está brigando ali com o Rubinho e o Webber. Você viu que o Webber aparece já na 8ª posição pelo erro do Petrov. O Petrov deu uma espalhadinha e com isso o Mark Webber conseguiu ultrapassagem. Ele tenta voltar, isso aí é repente traseira direita, chega para lá, que eu digo, não chegou a tocar, mas botou o carro ali. O Petrov deu uma tiradinha de pé. E o Button vai andar, ele está com o pneu intermediário. Agora que nós vamos ver a história do pneu intermediário em relação aos outros, hein? Você veja que ele vai andar, ele vai abrindo caminho. Ele está abrindo caminho realmente o Jenson Button. Ele já passou ali o Rubinho, depois ele passou o Sutil, agora acabou de passar o Maldonado. Ele fez 3 ultrapassagens aí, nesse momento. Olha aí quem está na frente do Maldonado. Vamos depois ver o Sutil, atrás vem Rubens Barrichello. Isso quer dizer que o Button, com essas ultrapassagens, o Rubinho foi pro boxe. Com essas ultrapassagens, ele foi para a 11ª posição já, o Button, mesmo tendo parado depois de ter sido tocado pelo Hamilton e mesmo tendo cumprido uma punição de passagem pelo boxe. Vamos ficar prestando atenção aí na equipe, o Rubinho com toda a experiência, bota o intermediário, que sente que a pista é para intermediário.
Ele viu o Button passar por ele com facilidade e falou, é por aqui que eu vou também. Na volta seguinte parou e botou o intermediário.
Agora a questão, Reginaldo, vai ficar por conta da chuva. Se voltar a chover forte num período curto de tempo, quem não parou se dá bem. Se não voltar a chover forte, já todo mundo vai ter que parar para botar esse intermediário.
E agora há pouco eu vi um dos pilotos, não me lembro se foi o Vettel ou o Webber, perguntando para a equipe deles como é que estava essa possibilidade de mais chuva, e o pessoal da Red Bull não informou com muita precisão. Quer dizer que ninguém tem muita certeza, ninguém está apostando muito na chuva ou continuar a pista assim, ninguém sabe direito.
Até desde ontem as informações eram meio controversas, né? A McLaren disse que tinha possibilidade de chover, a Ferrari disse que não chovia de jeito nenhum, acertou a Ferrari. Agora todos acertaram quando disseram que hoje nós teríamos pista molhada. Aliás, ontem por volta das 9 da noite começou a chover na cidade de Montreal. Por volta das 9 da noite começou a chover na cidade de Montreal. Aí nós vamos na volta de número 16.
Lá vem o Weber.
E daqui a pouco você vai ter rodada do Campeonato Brasileiro. Tem jogos importantes. Campeonato Brasileiro que tem o São Paulo como líder absoluto, com 100% de aproveitamento, com 12 pontos em 4 jogos e 4 vitórias. Tem alguns confrontos importantes hoje, confrontos que tem que tem muita tradição internacional. E Palmeiras é um confronto de Falcão com Filipão. Tem alguns confrontos importantes. Às 4 da tarde, o Campeonato Brasileiro para você ao vivo sempre na Rede Globo. E depois, meu amigo Fausto Silva. E o Domingão do Faustão tem dança dos famosos hoje, hein?
O Button é disparado mais rápido da pista, 1 segundo e 1 mais rápido que o Vettel, o primeiro colocado.
Ele fez 32,9 nessa volta, o Vettel fez 34,0, o Alonso 35,0. Um segundo mais lento, o Felipe Massa atrás dele, 35,1. Vamos ver quem é que a Ferrari vai parar por ali. Veja que já praticamente o spray aí nessa parte onde os pilotos pouco enxergavam, ele praticamente não existe. Já diminuiu, quer dizer, ainda atrapalha um pouquinho os pilotos, mas diminuiu. E o Button vem vindo abrindo caminho, amigo. Ele vem vindo, ele vem abrindo caminho. Ele foi pra frente dele. Ele vem abrindo caminho. E já vem botando o carro pra cima do pão de resto ali. Vamos ver também o Rubinho daqui a pouco, como é que o Rubinho vai andar. Ele fez a primeira volta, agora vamos esperar a volta seguinte para ver o tempo. E Fernando Alonso vai pro box. Foi uma hora que tem que dar sorte. O Felipe pode se dar bem. Voltou a chover. Se a chuva apertar, ele tá com pneu de chuva forte. O Alonso acabou de botar o pneu intermediário. O Button botou o pneu intermediário. Você quer torcer pro Felipe? Torce pra água agora. Essa é a torcida nesse momento. Torce pra água porque a chuva voltou, hein?
Agora, olha a Ferrari como não tá... Eles desaprenderam mesmo esse negócio de pit stop, não é com a Ferrari. Já perderam 1 segundo em relação ao Rosberg, o Alonso em relação ao Rosberg.
Eu vou fazer outra pergunta pra você. Será que alguma vez eles souberam fazer direito?
A Ferrari chegou a ser a recordista na história da Fórmula 1.
Provocação, né?
Na época que se trocava pneu e reabastecia, ela fez um reabastecimento em 5:15. Isso foi um recorde durante muitos anos.
Olha aqui, mais uma lição para o automobilismo brasileiro. Tem que aprender exatamente isso. Quando surgem coisas tão estranhas para nos tomar decisão na hora. Acabou de aparecer que o acidente, que o envolvimento dos carros da McLaren será analisado depois da corrida. Então é depois da corrida, se alguém tiver culpa, se aplica 20 segundos. Tá certo, Luciano Butti?
Punição durante a prova tem que ser com absoluta certeza, né? Se tem alguma dúvida, alguma coisa que não tem, é melhor conferir por vídeo, pela telemetria dos carros, tem que esperar o final da prova para depois tomar a decisão.
Vamos ver agora como é que o Alonso se vira, já vem fazendo ultrapassation ali, ó. Ele voltou atrás dos dois, ele voltou ali atrás, entre os dois carros da Renault. Ele voltou, portanto, entre o carro do Heidfeld e do Petrov. Ele já fez a ultrapassagem, já foi para a 6ª posição. Vettel é o primeiro, Massa é o segundo, Kobayashi é o terceiro, Weber é o 4º colocado. O Alonso já vai para a 5ª posição mesmo tendo parado. Agora depende da condição da pista. Se não chover mais, o Alonso está bem. Se voltar a chover, o Alonso está mal. Isso em relação aos 3 que estão lá na frente, os 4 agora nesse momento, Vettel, Massa, Kobayashi e Weber. Isso em relação a eles. E vamos ver o tempo deles agora, com pista limpa, para ver a condição da pista nesse momento.
Schumacher também trocou, hein?
O Schumacher também foi pro box para fazer a troca. Nesse momento o Schumacher foi pro box para fazer a troca. Na volta anterior, o Vettel virou um 34,6 e o Felipe Massa, que a gente dizia que está sendo limitado pelo Alonso, olha só, Burke e Reginaldo. 1,34,6 o tempo, olha só a água. O Felipe deu sorte. Uma hora tem que dar sorte, amigo. Deu sorte dessa vez. Olha a água caindo com força. Deu sorte para Vettel, para Massa, para Kobayashi e para Weber. Aqueles que estão na frente não pararam. Olha o rádio do Massa.
I don't know how much heavier the rain's going to get. What do you think about the tires?
Well, it starts to be a little bit more oversteer, but it starts to rain now. Other rain is coming, so not sure it's a good idea to stop and put intermediates.
Bom, primeiro de tudo, a Ferrari estava certa, falando que ia demorar 15, 20 minutos e que ia chover muito forte. O carro de segurança já está na pista porque não dá nem para enxergar, não dá para andar em linha reta.
Anoiteceu, amigo.
Exatamente. E o engenheiro do Felipe falou, bom, o que você acha dos pneus?
Essa pergunta foi demais. Né?
Não, mas tem um porquê. Porque como a pista estava secando, o Alonso voltou pro box para botar pneu de chuva. Então,
tem um certo momento em que a sorte tinha que mudar de lado.
Exatamente. Mas a pergunta até é pelo seguinte, como eles andaram muito tempo com aquele trilho quase seco e com pneu de chuva, o pneu tende a desgastar demais. Então, o engenheiro queria saber ao Button também de volta para o box.
E o Rubinho vai ter que parar também.
Também vai ter que parar.
Schumacher.
Exatamente. Então, o engenheiro quer saber se os pneus estão bem, estão de acordo, porque mesmo sendo um pneu de chuva pesada, às vezes o pneu se desgastou. Então, o Felipe falou o seguinte, ó, o carro começou a sair muito de traseira, mas acho que tá ok, vamos esperar aqui por enquanto para ver como vai vir a chuva e ver o que acontece. A decisão certa também do Felipe, porque se ele entra numa hora dessa, o safety car já estava na pista.
É porque tem gente parando, inclusive, como o caso, olha só, o Rosberg fez a segunda parada, o Schumacher faz a segunda parada. Foi o Rosberg que entrou pro box, ele foi o Schumacher não. Foi o Rosberg que entrou para fazer a segunda parada. Então quem faz a segunda parada, como o Alonso e tudo, acaba perdendo tempo. Nós vamos ver o comportamento da pista para ver até que ponto esses que estão à frente. Quem está à frente? Vettel em primeiro, Massa em segundo, Kobayashi em terceiro, Weber em quarto, Heidfeld em quinto, Petrov em sexto, Paul de Resta em sétimo. Esses são os 7 que não pararam para trocar pneus. Globo, a gente se liga em você.
Nova skin é São João, tem cervejão.
Tá aí o Vettel comprovando aquilo que eu falei, ó, ele parou para colocar de novo um novo pneu de chuva porque o outro estava desgastado e a chuva é tão forte que você precisa do melhor pneu possível para lidar com as condições.
E ele aproveita o safety car para fazer essa parada. O Felipe Massa com isso é o líder da prova, assume a posição de líder da prova o Felipe Massa, com o Kobayashi na segunda posição, e vamos ver qual é a atitude do Felipe agora. Porque agora veja o Weber, aqueles que ainda não pararam, eles estão parando para ter pneus em melhores condições. E agora, amigo? Vale a pena arriscar? E agora como é que é? E agora? Como é que é? Bota pneu intermediário também. Pneu de chuva, perdão.
Mas não trocar o volante como era o combinado. Você viu que ele teve algum problema ali, demorou para sair, ó, 9 segundos? Eu não vi, só se eu perdi aqui, mas talvez.
Exatamente por isso.
Eu tava de olho no pneu, talvez.
Por isso é que teve essa demora.
Tá bom.
Por isso é que teve essa demora na troca do volante. Nós temos 20 voltas completadas, estamos na volta número 21, no total de 70, uma corrida que prometia muitas emoções, por enquanto está tendo muitas alternâncias, né, Reginaldo? Porque pouca corrida, né? Pouca corrida nesse momento, porque muito tempo de sempre ficar na pista. Mas Felipe Massa é o primeiro. Quando parou o Vettel, vamos repetir o Weber? Vamos botar a imagem do Weber de novo? É que o Butch estava de olho para ver o pneu. Troca o volante, Butch.
Foi claro. Eu estava de olho no pneu, foi claro. Deu para ver fácil. Ele sabia que o piloto mesmo consegue.
E vou dizer uma coisa, o volante não tem nada a ver com a demora, porque ele recebeu e já colocou o volante na hora.
Mas deu para ver que ele demorou um pouquinho só para encaixar, né? Porque tem um lado de segurança. Você não é... Tem 2 cliques. O primeiro, ele dá um encaixe, mas não dá um encaixe com segurança. Ó. Felipe pro box, então tem que ter o segundo clique para ter firmeza no volante.
Eles vêm para aproveitar exatamente porque o pneu é aquela história, do pneu já não está rendendo, ele estava na primeira posição, ele veio para o box e vamos ver como é que vai voltar, né? Vamos ver em que posição. Agora a Ferrari tinha que fazer o trabalho mais bonito da vida dela. Trabalho mais bonito da vida dela. Ele trabalhou direito. E agora? Ele vai voltar na frente do
aquele 2 e 3 está errado.
Ele vai voltar na frente do safety car. Ele voltar na frente do safety car significa que ele está em primeiro?
Temos que esperar a posição se confirmar, mas o que essa nova regra que o Button acabou sendo punido hoje faz? Os carros, mesmo que não estejam atrás do safety car, do carro de segurança, mantém mais ou menos a mesma velocidade. Por isso que o Felipe, mesmo dando uma volta a mais, talvez não tenha sido muito prejudicado. Não consigo ter certeza, até a gente ter uma noção exata no computador. Mas os carros andam o tempo todo com o safety car na frente ou não, numa velocidade muito semelhante, que é uma regra para evitar que tenha esse desequilíbrio, né, de quem vem acompanhando o safety ou não. Por isso que o Button foi punido por não respeitar esse limite de velocidade.
Não tem que esperar o pelotão se formar inteiramente. O Kobayashi não parou para trocar. O Heidfeld não parou para trocar. O Petrov não parou para trocar. E Paul de Resta não parou para trocar. Foram aqueles que não pararam para trocar e o rádio do Vettel.
Just an information from turn 9 to turn 13. It's undrivable.
O Vettel falando uma coisa importante, porque ele sabe que a direção de prova também escuta o rádio dele, tá? Ele acabou de falar que entre a curva 9 e a curva 13 é inguiável. O que acontece? tá aquaplanando o carro tem muita água, o carro aquaplana, mesmo andando devagar, você vê o Alguersuari não tá andando rápido, o carro sai da pista.
Os pilotos tratam como número. Essa é aquela variante. É aquela variante alta que tem o muro esperando ali. Que o piloto, quando perde o ponto de freada, ele atravessa a variante, como fez o Alguersuari ali. Porque se ele tentar fazer a curva, vai no muro.
Exato. E você vê que o Vettel, então, não é que ele estava falando apenas pro engenheiro, para a equipe dele. Ele está falando para a direção de prova saber quais são as condições da pista e não relargar no momento, porque, segundo ele, está inguiável.
Aí você está vendo o Hamilton que abandonou a prova. Globo, a gente se liga em você.
Combustíveis Petrobras, o sonho de consumo de todo carro.
Voltar que nem o Hamilton voltar ali pro box depois de fazer o que fez durante a corrida não é a situação mais legal do mundo.
Não é legal pra você olhar pra galera que tá lá dentro, né? Você olhar pro seu patrão.
Não é legal.
Se olhar pro seu patrão não é legal. Você vê que na pista nós temos o Vettel, temos o Kobayashi, que o Kobayashi não parou, e temos o Felipe Massa ali na posição. Essa é a posição, inclusive, que aparece no computador. Com o Vettel em primeiro, com o Kobayashi que não parou em segundo, com o Massa em terceiro, com o Raikkonen na quarta posição, Petrov em quinto, o de resto em sexto. O Alonso vai aparecer na oitava posição, Rubens Barrichello na 16ª posição, e o Vettel tá conversador hoje, hein?
You cannot restart the race like this because for the first car it is already too dangerous. For the car behind, he doesn't see anything, so blind he goes into the water, aquaplanes and smash the car.
Understood. We'll pass on the information.
Repetindo, o Vettel está repetindo que não pode relargar a corrida nessas condições, que ele é o primeiro carro ali, já quase não enxerga nada, então quem vem atrás não vai ser impossível de ter alguma visibilidade, e que o carro está aquaplanando, e se relargarem, vai aquaplanar e sair da pista batendo forte.
Vamos repassar a sua informação, que ele está passando para a direção da prova, né? Com o Charles Whiting, ele está passando essa informação, e ele disse dessa coisa de não poder chegar, ele disse, atrás do safety car eu já não enxergo, quer dizer, imagina quando for um carro de Fórmula 1 andando a 280 km por hora, quem é que vai enxergar alguma coisa ali atrás?
E quando o engenheiro diz repassar, vai fazer uma pressão em cima do Charlie Whiting. Olha aí o Charlie Whiting e o Herbert Blanche.
No centro está o Charlie Whiting, à esquerda está o Herbert Blanche. Eles é que vão resolver. Eles aqui, em primeiro plano estava o Herbert Blanche, ao centro estava o Charles Whiting, os dois cabelos brancos, os dois trabalharam para Bernie Ecclestone, quando o Bernie Ecclestone era dono da Brabham, os dois trabalharam para Nelson Piquet, quando Nelson Piquet era piloto da Brabham, e agora são os homens, o Bernie Ecclestone, o chefão da Fórmula 1, é muito fiel. Então, que é o responsável pela transmissão, é um ex-funcionário dele da Brabham. O responsável pela carga de toda a Fórmula 1, é um ex-funcionário dele da Brabham. O chefe, o diretor de prova, é um ex-funcionário dele da Brabham. O assistente, é um ex-funcionário dele. E vamos embora, e vai botando. Ele botou todo mundo dele para tomar conta e não há como dizer que esteja errado. A Fórmula 1 cresceu de forma fantástica. É o circo da Fórmula 1, é a coisa que encanta o mundo. As pessoas quando chegam, as pessoas ficam enlouquecidas para poder ir a uma corrida de Fórmula 1. As pessoas ficam procurando, pagam o que é preciso pagar. O que se pede por uma credencial para ir a um paddock que é ali atrás, para ver um piloto de perto, porque uma pessoa chegar à Fórmula 1 é o máximo que se pode conquistar no esporte a motor. Então há esse fascínio, essa coisa, e é muito bacana. O jovem, agora com essa coisa legal de disputar essas corridas no videogame, ele ajeita o carro, ele ajusta a suspensão, ele se sente ali dentro do carro. Então a Fórmula 1, acima de tudo, Euro 20 em posição, Kobayashi que não, amigo, se largar, como é que o Kobayashi vai andar com o pneu intermediário nessa área? Responde pra mim.
Ele vai fazer o que ele faz normalmente. Ele é completamente irresponsável em relação... Não, ele tem talento. Agora, ele é completamente irresponsável. Quando você estava dizendo esse Kobayashi é bom, esse Kobayashi é danado, ele é sempre danado, até a hora de aprontar alguma.
Como ele largou, ele não para no box, ele tá com pneu de chuva, só que usado.
Gastado.
Exato.
Gastado, perdão, desculpa o erro. Gasto, é isso que eu queria falar. Não intermediário. Quando eu disse intermediário, entendo. Seu pneu de chuva é muito mais gasto que o dos outros.
Yeah, okay, Jenson, understand. We'll pass that on to race control. And Jenson, we're expecting 20 more minutes of this intensity rain.
Eu ia falar isso agora há pouco, que mostraram o computador e o Button dizendo a mesma coisa do Vettel, não dá para enxergar nada, tem muita água, e o engenheiro A gente tem a informação que a chuva apertou nesse momento, ó.
Olha como chove, amigo.
Exatamente, a chuva apertou e o computador ali de alguma das equipes falava que, eu não sei se é da direção de prova, que a chuva iria...
em 20 minutos.
Em 20 minutos iria enfraquecer, seria a palavra? Diminuir, né? Diminuir. Por enquanto, então, esses 20 minutos vão ser pesados, porque aumentou agora. E até para as pessoas entenderem, quando se fala que não dá para guiar, Galvão, na rua, com um pneu de carro de rua, que é um pneu muito mais fino que um Fórmula 1, você já sente o carro aquaplanando, né? Você passa em uma poça d'água...
Explica aí exatamente o que é aquaplanar. Perdeu o contato com o solo.
Perdeu o contato com o solo, o carro flutua, vamos dizer assim, mais ou menos, né? Ele passa por uma quantidade de água de muita água, então o pneu perde o contato com o asfalto. E na rua você sente isso às vezes, já é um perigo. E lembrando, quanto mais estreito o pneu, menos chance de aquaplanar você tem. Qual? Bandeira vermelha, suspender a prova.
Eu ia dizer exatamente. Não há outra coisa a fazer nesse momento, relembro o Grande Prêmio da China, do que uma bandeira vermelha. A corrida está interrompida, vale as posições da volta anterior, os carros vão parar no grid, pode se mexer no carro, pode fazer tudo. A regra, aliás, por falar nisso, a regra diz, a tradução literal dela diz assim: os carros podem ser trabalhados e esses trabalhos não podem prejudicar o reinício da corrida. É só isso que fala. É exatamente isso. E só
muito
isso.
Simplificado.
É muito simplificado e muito, não sei se a palavra correta seria ambíguo, mas é alguma coisa por aí.
Dá razões à ambiguidade.
Exatamente.
Interpretação.
Então, eles vão parar porque não tinha outra coisa a ser feita. Globo, a gente se liga em você.
Novo Renault Sandero, surpreenda-se!
Olha só o que cai de água. Eu me lembro do Grande Prêmio do Japão há 2 anos que não teve treino e os pilotos ficavam brincando de botar barquinho, fazer barquinho de papel, para o barquinho de papel andar ali na água. Eu me lembro que o nosso Lucas de Graça jogou um carteado legal ali enquanto a chuva caía. E é isso que tinha que fazer mesmo, tinha que parar e agora vamos ver o que cada um faz. Então agora...
Teve, Galvão, uma das vitórias do Ayrton Senna, que foi assim na Austrália e a corrida não foi reiniciada. Então a corrida teve 14 voltas apenas.
Exatamente. Agora vamos ver exatamente o que vai acontecer. Os repórteres não têm acesso, os repórteres cinematográficos não têm acesso ao grid. E aí vai todo mundo correr para trabalhar em cima dos carros. Vamos fazer o seguinte, temos algumas coisas da história do Grande Prêmio do Canadá para mostrar para você, para que você vá vivendo emoções. Vamos ver na sequência ali. O Felipe gozado que o Felipe parou na posição, ele parou ali na 4ª posição. O Felipe parou ali na 4ª posição. Tá estranha aquela posição dele ali.
É só arrumar, o mecânico arruma, não tem problema.
É botar o carro e vai levar de lado ali, porque ele parou na 4ª posição. Ele está na 3ª posição na prova, parou ali na quarta posição. O lado esquerdo, vamos dar uma olhada onde é que está o Vettel. Onde é que está o Vettel? Eu tenho a sensação que o Felipe parou no lugar certo, o Vettel parou no lugar errado, hein? Vamos dar uma olhada na hora que abrir a câmera aqui, eu tenho a impressão que o Vettel parou no lugar errado. Diga, Carlos Gil.
Parou no lugar errado. O Felipe está no ponto de largada dele, na 3ª posição.
Exatamente, é isso mesmo. A gente viu ali a coisa vazia. Você está vendo aí o Vettel, que é o líder. O Vettel que já deu uma passada reta. Nós vamos fazer o seguinte, enquanto eles resolvem por lá, a gente se ajeita por aqui e já nós voltamos para ver todas as emoções deste Grande Prêmio de Fórmula 1, que tem muita chuva, já teve batida, já teve o Hamilton fazendo lambança de novo e já tem punição por aí, mas acho que fica uma lição muito bacana para todo mundo. Quando não for muito claro, se espere o fim da corrida para que se possa dar a punição. É muito simples, dar 20 segundos, dar 30 segundos, dar a posição do grid da corrida seguinte, mas que seja tudo para que erros não sejam cometidos e prejudiquem pilotos como o Daniel Serra, por exemplo. Quem sabe ele não vai estar na final da Stock Car porque foi prejudicado da cronometragem. Então eu estou falando da Stock Car e mais uma vez aproveito para dar parabéns para o Burke. Belíssima corrida, Burke. Perfeita! Como nos velhos tempos.
Valeu.
Muito bacana. Vamos lá. Globo, a gente se liga em você.
Madness.
It's a visibility situation as much as a situation on grip, and we can see the stewards walking the track. What will they be looking for?
Well, standing water. That is the worst thing you can possibly get on a racetrack. And please remember, this is not a...
How long it goes on for?
Okay, well, good luck. And Casey Stoner won at Silverstone today, so good news for the Aussies.
I think it was a pretty boring bike race, wasn't it? But really happy that Casey won. I think, and Le Mans sounded interesting as well, so big motorsport weekend. Cheers, guys.
Okay, well played, Mark. Thank you very much. Always honest, always truthful, actually, and it was interesting when we talked about the luck as much as the speed for Sebastian. A rueful smile from him there.
Well, he's probably pinching himself at night and he said, what must I do? I've got the same car, I've got the same engine, I've got the same support. What must I do? Because every turn I make, he comes out looking like roses and I'm back there in the gutter, so to speak. Not necessarily, of course, in the gutter, but he doesn't have the same rub of the green. And that is a fact. And sometimes that gets into you, but I thought he was very calm and very cool. He's very pragmatic. He understands clearly it will turn in his favour. Remember what happened this time last year. He turned around and he won a couple of races on the hoof. Of course, Monaco this time last year, no one really gave him a chance, and suddenly he's right back in the championship again. This is going to be a much tougher call, though, for everybody, with the exception of Vettel, because he's pulling away. OK, well, let's get Christian Horner to come in and have a quick chat with us, then the team principal from Red Bull. We've just spoken to Mark Webber. He wants to get this race going. What about the man at the very front? He's got a healthy lead. He probably doesn't want to risk going out here in the wet rain, does he?
Well, Seb's a racer as well. I mean, I think he's keen to get out there again. I think the conditions are now improving. The track's looking better, so there's no reason to not get racing again. You do realise how serious this situation is. We are keeping Antiques Roadshow off the air with no racing happening at the moment. We need to get these cars out there. It's not raining very heavily, I have to say. It's got a little bit darker just a few moments ago. How much can you, as the teams, do to lobby Charlie Whiting, the race director, to just get this race going, at least get the cars running around, find a dry line out there somewhere? Well, it's very little, really. I mean, Charlie's his own man, and he's out there having a look at the track. He's got all his advisors as well. He's spoken to the drivers. Seb's had a chat with him, and he listens to the guys in the cars. He hears all of their radios, and I'm sure he's able then to make his own judgments from that, and made the right call in the circumstances to suspend the race. Christian, I'm intrigued. Are you telling me you want this race restarted? Well, at the end of the day, if it were to be stopped now, there'd only be half points. But may I remind you, which worked in your head already from the moment it was stopped, you have Kobayashi in second place. You have all the big protagonists for your championship all well out of the way. This is a miracle result for you. Why on earth would you want this restarted? Because we're racers. I accept that, but you also want to be champions, and no one remembers what happened today in Canada, because you'll have won the race. You may only get half points, but you'll still have won the race. It'll be a race victory, and it's closer to your championship. Yeah, sometimes, Eddie, though, it's not about just about winning. It's about how you win as well. And I think that it's right for the fans, it's right for the crowd that's come out here today to get the race going again. We're in a good position. It gives Mark the opportunity to come back through as well, and who knows? Hopefully we'll manage to hang on to the lead to the end of the race. But I think it's the right thing for Formula One, to start the race. Okay, we know you've got plenty of wet and intermediate tyres. There's no issue there. What will the plan be once they say, right, 10 minutes to go, this race is going to get going? What will you do, A, to keep Sebastian at the front, and B, to give Mark a chance to fight up from where he is? That's a multi-million-dollar question. I mean, I think that it's a matter of being flexible and reactive. We managed to get the calls right in the first part of the race. The pit lane's very, very short here. The penalty is only 15 seconds for a stop. So it's a matter of speaking with the drivers and reacting to the weather. So there's a degree of lottery to it as well. But so far in the race, we managed to make the right calls. Now, usually in Formula One, we're the ones badgering these kind of people for information. So I'm now going to tell Christian something that may mean he scampers off very quickly. We've been told 14 minutes until the race restarts. Obviously, you haven't got your headphones hanging around your neck, so you haven't heard that. So just give us an idea quickly before you do disappear. What now happens with your team from now until 14 minutes time when the race gets going? What will you be going through? Well, there'll be going through final preparations, just making sure that the engine, all the temperatures are warm enough. and I'll be going for a quick toilet break. Pit stop.
Let's call it a pit stop, shall we? Okay, all right, Christian. Well, good luck. We'll wait and see what happens, and we are both still very amazed that you do want this race to continue with your man sitting first, but that's what will happen, so we'll wait and see.
We'll see. I mean, sure, hopefully
and
be a good
importantly,
race.
let's not forget, 2 very workable cars, and he doesn't want those guns back in a scrap heap. So I admire your honesty. I'm not sure all the rest of the team bosses would say the same thing, but anyway, well done to you, because it's what we want to hear. We want to hear good sporting stories. Well done, Christian.
Okay, about 12.5 minutes and counting. Thanks a lot, Christian. Very interesting, actually. The one man sitting behind Sebastian Vettel at the moment will be sitting there thinking, I've only been in Formula 1 for a season and a half. I love overtaking. One overtake could give me a race win. We're talking about Kamui Kobayashi, the Japanese driver that everybody loves to watch. This is a huge opportunity for him, and if I was Christian, I'd be slightly nervous that he's the man behind Sebastian.
Well, not alone that. Remember, there's been a series of Japanese drivers come to Grand Prix racing. One thing beyond any doubt, they have been all truly amazing in wet conditions. He's now going to have brand new tyres on the car, same as everybody else, even though he'd had previously only made one stop, or in fact that's it, he hadn't made a stop, if I can recall properly. No, Kobayashi didn't make a stop, and as a result he's now got new tyres on the car. He's going to have a go. He's got nothing to lose.
Okay, just to give you a full update on the way things are standing at the moment, Sebastian Vettel is sitting in first place, Kamui Kobayashi is second with Felipe Massa third, Nick Heidfeld is fourth, Petrov is fifth with Paul de Resta sitting sixth at the moment, the Scottish rookie. Mark Webber seventh on the grid once the restart happens. Fernando Alonso is eighth. Pedro de la Rosa, who's been drafted into the Sauber at very short notice, is ninth, with Jenson Button 10th, having already stopped twice and having had a drive-through penalty. Nico Rosberg and Michael Schumacher, the two Mercedes teammates, are sitting 11th and 12th. Adrian Sutil in the Force India is sitting 13th, with Jaime Alguersuari, who's having a difficult season so far, 14th. Timo Glock in 15th place. Rubens Barrichello is 16th, with Vitantonio Liuzzi sitting 17th, he of the beautiful footwear. And then we've got Sebastien Buemi, Ryan Karthikeyan, Maldonado, Heikki Kovalainen and Jarno Trulli up to 22nd, with Jerome D'Ambrosio 23rd, and Lewis Hamilton, the only car not involved in this restart because he had a coming together with his teammates. So Eddie, it seems that finally we're going to get some racing here in Canada.
We are. It certainly looks that way, although the clouds would tell you something different because they've just covered back in again. One of the things, Jake, in all of the aspects that we've seen and how you very eloquently relayed exactly the position on the grids there, I think what surprised to me is the Mercedes team. They've made the same decision with both cars, and some parts of Ross Brawn, in years gone by, he might have split them. Why that happened this time, that the cars were the same and both in the position, I don't know.
OK, thanks, Eddie. Back to our commentators, Martin Brundle and David Coulthard.
Thank you, Jake. Yes, so that's going to mean when they get underway in just over 10 minutes' time, that's a total red flag period of 2 hours and 4 minutes that everybody has been patiently waiting, and thank you so much for staying with us at home. We hope we can give you some action now. They will start behind the safety car as per the regulations on full wet tyres. The track is looking significantly better. We've heard about another rainstorm coming in, but we haven't seen any sign of it, and there's absolutely no doubt that now, looking out of the window and looking at the TV pictures, the track is in significantly better condition. So had they red flagged it and we didn't get back underway, half points would have been allocated, and of course there'd be a count back as well to the last complete lap of racing, but that was done under safety car conditions, so I think they would have still finished in the order that they will restart the Grand Prix. And let me remind you of that then. Vettel will be at the front from Kobayashi in his Sauber. Massa, the man you're looking at, will start third in line. Nick Heidfeld and Vitaly Petrov for Renault, fourth and fifth. Paul de Resta for Force India, sixth. Mark Webber, seventh. Fernando Alonso, who took that gamble on intermediate tyres, and you can see the weather radar now. The previous show has disappeared, it said, so that's why it hasn't shown up. It's moved away, gone off the radars. So Alonso 8th, De La Rosa 9th for Sauber, standing in for Perez, as we've mentioned before. Rosberg 11th, Schumacher 12th, Sutil 13th, Alguersuari for Toro Rosso 14th. Timo Glock up in 15th place for the Virgin Racing team. We didn't talk too much about that, but that's a very good effort from him he didn't pit, and that's helped him enormously. Barrichello's pitted twice, he's in 16th. Liuzzi for Hispania 17th, Buemi 18th, Toro Rosso. Katakayan, Hispania 19th. Maldonado for Williams, who started this race 12th, pitted twice, he's back down in 20th place. And the two Lotus drivers, 21st and 22nd, Kovalainen and Trulli, did come in for a set of inters and paid a heavy price for that too. D'Ambrosio will line up 23rd and last in the queue that will follow the Mercedes-Benz SLS as they dry the dainty boots. They're like slippers, fireproof slippers basically you drive with. There's no space down in where the pedals are. You can't afford any extra material around your boots inside there to press just two pedals, almost a stop and go situation, throttle and brake, and you certainly don't want them to be to stick wet feet in there, otherwise they start sliding around on the pedals and particularly the bumps. So Sebastian Vettel, we've seen probably the driver got himself up on the pit wall and kept his head where he wanted it. I think it wasn't in any casual conversations much, was he? He seemed more focused on the pit wall, David.
Well, we did see him out the back of the garage briefly talking with Mark Webber, but then he was plugged in with all the engineers. And the reason they set up there on the pit wall and get the headsets on is not that there was any noise there stopping them having a conversation, but that conversation is actually beamed back to their race control, if you like, or their operations room back in Milton Keynes. Same for McLaren back in Woking, and Ferrari, of course, at Fiorano. See
and these heated visors, David, did you use those?
Yeah, I had a heated visor back in my day, and it plugs into its own little battery supply, which just helps keep a bit of heat on the inside of the visor. And you can see the radio cable there. Sorry, that's the visor cable, actually, isn't it, for that battery pack?
And they're double glazed as well, like you get on a lot of motorcycle helmets as well now, to stop any fogging.
Yeah.
Because when you get fog and damp inside there, you have to lift the visor to try and clear it away, and then you're really in trouble at that point, and you start sticking wet gloves in there. But you have to do it to see where you're going. You'll see a rip-off there on the visor of Felipe Massa, 2 or 3 either side. You dispatch those as you go through the race to clear mud and rubbish and flies and oil away from your visor. You just have to be careful you don't stick them down your own engine intake, which is just above the driver's head. You have to make sure you put them out the side of the car, and of course sometimes they then go into the radiator ducts of the car behind.
Well, as you see the few raindrops dropping in that puddle there, believe it or not, there was one guy who came up with a sort of rubber, like a window wiper that they've used in the back of the glove, so the driver could sort of do his own little rub across the visor. Unsurprisingly, that didn't take off.
Well, I've got one of my biking gloves, and they're very useful on biking gloves, I have to say. But I tend to stick a little bit under a couple of 100 miles an hour on that. Mark Webber then. He's had an eventful afternoon. I mean, we're looking at a total race time here of over 4 hours from the lights going out to the checkered flag drops, and that's assuming we get that far. Webber starts 7th. Quickly having to waterproof the notes there, the engineers. I would imagine there'll be several lessons learned, and in the debriefs on Monday and Tuesday, there'll be what would we do next time in these circumstances, because this, I don't remember this amount of red flag downtime.
No, that's no question about that. This is a very unusual situation we're seeing here in Canada, but surprisingly, this is not only part of the preparation for a Grand Prix weekend. As we saw that, just reminding ourselves the number of mechanics and engineers heading out there didn't even have jackets on, so everyone will be properly wet. Pretty cold out there, actually, with air temperature of 18 degrees, and we're just hoping that those few drops of rain.
Okay, it's starting to rain a little bit harder, but apparently it will only last for 5 minutes.
Well, that answers the point I was going to make. Let's hope this rain doesn't last too long and we can get this race underway.
Ben Mailander then, ready to lead more laps of a Grand Prix. And I got a Twitter question through, could he win the Grand Prix if he stays at the front? No, is the answer.
Is someone looking for some betting tips? That won't work.
Nico Rosberg. patiently waiting, as everybody has done, to get this race underway. We've been stationary for longer than a Grand Prix takes place in over 2 hours. But we are expecting a little more rain. But it's quite bright out there, isn't it? It's quite a different scenario. And you were saying, David, just as it flicked up on screen, the race will restart at 10 minutes to the hour, that you felt the racing should be back underway again.
Yeah, there's no question that they can be running safely behind the safety car. It will be a safety car start. Everyone will be on those full wets, which not too much standing water out there now. Visibility is the big issue, and we've learned from a number of the drivers that we've interviewed that they were really struggling in the mid-pack. Michael Schumacher taking on the last little bit of fluid. Can't imagine he used much of the hydration he'd prepared ahead of the race.
How much fluid would you take in a weekend? What's your preparation on race day, let's say?
Well, on a normal race, you take on about 5 or 6 litres of fluid, which pretty much means that you're sort of constantly topping up, running up to the race. This is actually, when it's dry, quite a physical race because of the high G-forces that you have under braking. Obviously in the wet it's not as physical, but from a mental fatigue point of view, the concentration required is so much higher.
2 minutes to go to the restart of the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix, round 7 of this year's World Championship. We've seen lots of action earlier on and surprises, of course. To remind you, 23 of the 24 drivers will restart. Lewis Hamilton, after that contact with his teammate Jenson Button, is out of the race with car damage, parked around there at turn 5. They've dragged it back now, but he's not allowed to restart. And they now begin to take away the trolleys that include the generators and the heaters and all sorts of... Well, basically it's quite interesting actually, because there are certain parts of the car they have to heat up and other parts they have to cool down if they come back onto the grid. For example, the brakes need cooling so they don't boil up.
I think, Sebastian, one thing that would be useful is that when somebody goes on inters, for instance, I'll give you space and you can say, to me, it's too wet for inters, or to me, I could go to inters, things like that. That helps us along.
So we see now, as I said to you earlier on, they use the 5 red lights that start the Grand Prix as a countdown in this phase to let the teams know where they are in the sequence. And everybody must be on the wet tyres, the full wet tyres. What can we see on that steering wheel?
I presume that was Felipe Massa pushing his radio switch. Didn't hold the position long enough, but maybe he was just communicating with his engineer.
Yes, you're not allowed to try and steal a march by restarting on intermediates. We saw back in Fuji a couple of years ago where Ferrari had to come in and change them. They were against the regulations. Actually, I'm surprised they weren't penalised, because it's absolutely clear you have to start on the full wet tyre if it's deemed to be. And the safety car then has pulled away, and we are back in racing conditions here on the Ile Notre Dame in the St. Lawrence Seaway on the outskirts of Montreal. And it's Sebastian Vettel who leads the crocodile that must now follow the safety car. And again, David, how long do you suspect that safety car will be out?
Well, I think the conditions are very similar to what we saw a couple of hours ago when the Grand Prix first got underway. So I would expect him to go once past, maybe maximum twice past, just to allow everyone to get their cars fully up to temperature. That may be a point that's been discussed that we've not heard on the radios, that because the cars have been sitting there, they would have been plugged in to keep engine temperatures and things like that, but there may be other aspects of the car that the drivers have communicated to Charlie Whiting that they want at least 1 or 2 laps behind the safety car before releasing.
And the fans jumping up and pointing, it's a racing car! Wow! We haven't seen one of those for a while. They are still in town, and we're getting ready, hopefully, for some full speed action sooner than later. And let's see, I mean, it's a completely different picture out there. It's almost as if the island was sinking, wasn't it, an hour ago? But it's emerged again. 2.7 miles this racetrack, 14 corners, 5 of them are left-handers, 9 of them are right-handers. This is the hairpin down at turn 10 that's seen so much action over the years, and the fans are always there to support the drivers. It's a wonderful feeling as a driver down there. They've thinned out a bit. Some people are out the back of the stands and waiting to come back in, or given up on it. But that's the spray that Vettel's getting off the safety car. Your visor does clear slightly better than that, better curvature on it, and it streams off. But it's now keeping some temperature, or getting some temperature in those brakes. They can preheat the engines, they can obviously put the tyres in blankets. It's down to the driver to manually get some heat back in those brakes, and it's such a difficult decision, isn't it, to know where to brake, where, just how much grip and how much stopping power you're going to have when the race does get underway.
Yeah, it's a journey into the unknown. It was the past memory they had was of a certain level of water on the track. They're now on fresh tyres, which potentially will give more grip once you get all that release agent that allows them to be taken out of the moulds once they're manufactured. So they'll be trying to evenly build up the heat between the front and rear tyre. Easy to get temperature in the rear tyre, of course. You can just unleash as much power as is possible and spin up the rear tyres, but getting heat in that front tyre is tricky. You don't want to be weaving too much, but you want to be building brake temperature. Brakes go up to about 1,000 degrees, which then radiates out into the wheel, into the air, or the nitrogen, I believe that it is, inside those tyres, and help maintain temperature.
Yes, a driver's job, especially in this phase, is all about heat management. The heating engineers, aren't they, in terms of getting everything settled down where it needs to be.
Just a reminder, as we look at the rear wing, there'll be no DRS available. That's at the discretion of Charlie Whiting again, and the stewards up there, or Charlie Whiting actually, will decide when they can have that. So you won't be seeing any moving rear wings until a few laps into this race at least.
And thank you so much for staying with us back at home. We are transferring to BBC 2 at 9 p.m. local time, local to you in the UK. So please do transfer over with us very shortly, in a few minutes time. But there'll be an overlap of BBC 1 and BBC 2, as I understand it. But meanwhile then, we're waiting to see the all-important sign, safety car in this lap. That is the wording I want to see up on the screen, as I'm sure you do at home. We're now in lap 28 of this 70-lap race that should be done by Wednesday if we're lucky.
What's interesting, Martin, coming back to a point you made earlier, these high shots make it look completely clear. Get on with the racing. But I'm looking out the commentary box window, which is right down the back of the start-finish straight, and you lose the cars into the wall of spray. So the two camera angles can be so deceiving.
Yes, because as I said, the camera looks through 2 or 3 meters of spray as it's looking down, whereas you look through 100 meters of spray as you're following another car. It's just like being out on a foggy night and you can't see your hand in front of your face. There's a better idea of what you're talking about there, David, with that camera angle now through turn 5.
Right, the drivers will be getting warmed up now. Their heart rates will be climbing again back into their optimal working condition. Temperatures will all be stabilizing, and they'll all be nervously waiting for that message that safety car will be in. Is it going to be this lap? I don't think so. They're just coming through.
So what are they
8 and 9.
What are they looking for then? Presumably there's a bit of radio transmission going on that we're not party to at the moment.
Yeah.
The driver's giving a point of view, but what would you be looking for now to say whether they can go? Because it looks like it's ready to race to me.
Yeah, there's definitely not an issue there with standing water as we speak. It's about visibility. So we are not getting the radio transmissions from the drivers. So the guys in the middle here, emerging from that spray, will be presumably saying it's too wet, it's too much spray. But hopefully we'll not have too many more laps of this.
Shouldn't they drive accordingly then?
Yeah, well, you are absolutely right, but sometimes you need to save people from themselves. I think all these guys, when push came to shove, would go racing in any conditions. But they're strategists as well as race drivers, and they've got to use all the tools at their disposal to try and claim those 25 points. And if that means giving a bit of misinformation to the race director, then so be it.
Lap 29, Stefano Domenicali there, watching the screen intently. His drivers are Felipe Massa 3rd, Fernando Alonso 8th at the moment.
It's interesting looking out the commentary box there as we go on board with the safety car. Kobayashi looks ready for it. He was right up the rear underfloor of Sebastian Vettel going through that last chicane there, so he's good to go.
Yeah.
How's the visibility at the minute? How is the visibility?
Okay.
Short and sweet. 2 letters. It's okay. No sign yet that the safety car is in on this lap either. That was Massa then, who's 3rd on the road. Fine, which is before the last chicane. And we've got a Lotus then of Heikki Kovalainen cruising round at the back. It sounds like a slipping clutch to me, David, or something like that. He's revving the engine, but it's not moving forward. So is that a transmission issue there for Kovalainen?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like he's got any control over that, does it? It could be hydraulics. So.
He was running 21st, but he's now right at the back of the field. He's going through.
I don't have hardly any drive. Okay, copy that. Just stay in gear and box.
Yeah, so it's I suspect it's a slipping clutch. Safety car goes around again. Can Kovalainen coax the Lotus back to the pits? And just to remind you, all of these races count, laps count for the race behind the safety car. The clock is running again. We've got a maximum of 1 hour and 5 minutes of racing available to us with 40 laps to go. It's going to be nip and tuck, isn't it? Depends on the lap times that they're doing. And if we get any more heavy rain or safety car periods, as to whether we run out of time before we complete the 70 laps. And still my eyes are focused on this computer screen in front of me, and still I don't see safety car in this lap. I see track temperature 17 degrees centigrade, air temperature 18 degrees centigrade, humidity 89%, and the pressure 1007 millibars. And we see an increasingly drying track.
Calculations, Martin, if they were doing the same lap times they were achieving before the initial red flag, we've got about 61 minutes of racing with 1 hour and 4 as we see the Lotus with Kovalainen driving into the pit lane. Not sure whether he'll be taking any further part in this race, but surely we must be getting close to the point where the safety car's coming in. And there we have it, Kovalainen being pushed back in. Disappointment for Lotus Renault, having sat there for all that time and then being pushed back before the race starts. How frustrating must that be?
Yeah, all the time he's been sitting there with nothing to do, and now the transmission's gone on the missing list somewhere.
Right, I'm ready for a restart. How do you feel?
Yeah, I've been ready for some time, as I'm sure of the tens of millions of people who listen to us as we watch Michael Schumacher moving around behind his teammate Nico Rosberg there, 11th and 12th.
You hear them just riding the brake there in the run between the exit of turn 2 and turn 3, just trying to put a bit of heat into those brakes. You wouldn't normally do that, of course. No point running throttle and brake together. It just burns fuel, inefficient. It's very important to try and get as much heat in those brakes as possible, because when they start running down to that first corner, then they're going to have brakes at peak temperature.
And welcome to our BBC Two viewers. Thank you very much for staying with us and moving over to the BBC Two channel. We are still under safety car conditions. No sign that the safety car's coming in. Yeah, we're 31 laps into this race now, yet to make it to half distance.
No, we're not expecting any more now, Bob.
And thank you very much to the BBC One viewers. We are now moving over to BBC Two as we await the safety car to make the decision. He goes round again.
Well,
so also on the BBC HD channel as well now, as you watch the line of 23 cars eagerly awaiting the restart of this Canadian Grand Prix. Just to remind you, Lewis Hamilton is out. He's the only retirement. Made contact with Jenson Button. If you've recently joined us, his teammate, and suspension damage as he hit the pit wall. Pieces of his car flying up and hitting the pit boards that the mechanics were holding out. Very close encounter with the pit wall. And Ted, what's the weather looking like from down there?
It's bright sunshine now in the pit lane, and more drivers I'm hearing on the team radio feed have been on the radio saying it's fine to get going.
Okay, the drivers think it's fine to get going. We think it's fine to get going, but that's not the message we're getting at the moment. And still no sign of any change in that. So just coasting around. Left foot on the brake pedal, right foot on the loud pedal, trying to put some energy into those brakes and tyres. And presumably there are still drivers out there radioing in saying it's too wet, it's too wet. But look, we've got a semi-dry line down at the hairpin. Surely the safety car's coming in on this lap. A little bit of standing water off the racing line. And as they head down what is normally a 200-mile-an-hour straight, and the safety car lights are not out, so he will take a right and a left to start yet another lap.
I don't think it's an issue, Martin, with the actual standing water. It must be just these guys down the back complaining of visibility, but...
Jenson, how is the track? Do you think it's ready to start racing?
Yeah, I think it's about there.
Okay, Jenson, thank you, I understand.
What did he say? I think it's about there.
He did indeed. Jenson's ready to go, and I think it's surely going to be this lap as they just run down into the first corner. They'll be visualising the restart. Obviously it's the concertina effect makes it difficult to really get up close as you come through that last chicane. As you've pointed out, Martin, they can overtake into the chicane.
I think you should abseil down the outside of the commentary box there and go and stand in the middle of that chicane, David, and go wave your arms like, get off the track, safety car. We want to see some action. I can't see any standing water now at all on the racing line, especially as they're all on the extreme wet weather tyre. And you can hear that rough sounding engine note, which is the exhaust blowing on the throttle, with the throttle being lifted off. Jenson there, there's Lewis there. Hello, Lewis, listening to the BBC commentary. But those systems are going to stop from the British Grand Prix onwards, where the teams are not allowed to do that. And a lot of people saying that could hurt Red Bull, and certainly going to change how the drivers attack the slow corners, because now they get on the throttle as early as they can to generate downforce. So that system going away, I think are going to be limited to just 10% of open throttle after the British Grand Prix. Some manic rewriting of the codes for the engines there, I'd imagine, but that's not our problem today. Our problem today is the safety car is still on the racetrack. They're heading down the back straight again.
Well, amazingly, it seems that the safety car is going to go around one more time. The lights are still flashing.
Bernd likes it out front there, doesn't he?
He does. He's going for some sort of laps-led record. I think he comfortably controls that as the only safety car driver we've had for more than a decade now. Okay, I feel it in my water, Martin. This lap, safety car in.
Not a pleasant thought. That's what you said on the last lap. You said that it was coming in on the last lap. There are the two Renaults, line astern, in 4th and 5th. They've had a very strong weekend. Safety car is in this lap, just is Jerome D'Ambrosio. So what are they going to put on that? They're putting another set.
Intermediates.
Yeah, set of inters then. So, you know, that feels wrong to me, that we've held the safety car out there and now you've got a driver going straight onto the inters, because that, to be honest, that's how the track looks.
Okay, gents. How many more laps do you think before inters?
Probably only a few. On racing line, it's pretty good water. Let's just say if you're going to start the race now, you would start on the other tyre.
So Jensen saying, right, if this was the start of the race proper, I would have the intermediates on, which he's experienced earlier on in the Grand Prix, that were working so well for him, but in a very narrow window of time.
Yeah. Well, let's see what Kobayashi can do. This is his moment. This is his big moment to try and see if he can lead this Grand Prix. I don't know how Sebastian Vettel feels. I think he'd be more comfortable having Massa right behind him.
So Vettel then takes over and becomes the safety car, effectively controlling the pace of the pack, got them all backed up at the hip, and it's so easy to run into another driver in those circumstances while you're trying to keep your tyres and brakes warm. And Vettel's bolted, he's going for it, he doesn't want Kobayashi anywhere near him as they arrive at the first safety car line. Massa's closer to Kobayashi, spray not too bad, Petrov on the right hand side of the track for Renault. And he's fighting off Paul Di Resta, who's down the outside. So Massa so close to Kobayashi. Close into two. Great driving from Kobayashi. Sensible for Massa in getting out of it. Mark Webber, you see there, in 7th place. So Kobayashi. And Schumacher's come in also then as a Sutil, presumably for intermediate time. We've got a line of them. Gluck, Barrichello, Buemi, all trying to take advantage of this situation. There they all go scampering out of the pit lane that feeds into the outside of turn 2, very unusually here at this racetrack. And which of the front runners then is going to try those intermediates again? They all got caught out last time, but at the moment the sky looks significantly clearer.
Well, interestingly, just looking there, it looks like Kobayashi's opened out a little bit the gap to Massa. We've got our timing screen here still showing us the fact that Massa was actually in front of him as he went across the start-finish line. He's obviously clearly behind him here, but all of that worked perfectly for Sebastian Vettel, who already has over a 1.5 second lead.
So Nico Rosberg there has fallen back down the field. Looks like he's had a drama somewhere. Vettel leads then at the end of this, towards the end of this first complete lap, as we just making half distance. So, and we got an investigation going on as well. As there we got a Renault, we got Di Resta in the pits as well.
I think in as well.
Yeah. So a long wait for the safety car to get out of the way, and now the driver's saying the track's so dry, I'd like a set of intermediates, please. As Button pits as well. So another string of them. Heidfeld, Di Resta, Button, Della Rosa, Alguersuari, Maldonado. Fancy the other tyres as well, and off Button goes down the pit lane, 62 miles an hour until he gets to the speed line, and then he can let it go. So D'Ambrosio's got a drive-through penalty for having incorrect tyres, because presumably the safety car hadn't gone in at that time. So he was... Oh, when we've got the Force India there across the grass down at turn 3, it was Sutil. Jenson Button's right behind him. Look at this for a traffic jam. Michael Schumacher in there as well.
Yeah, coming back with his intermediate tyres. He's pitted, of course. So he's got a bit of traffic in front of him. He's got an HRT. There's that Carthagena. He'll be well past him in the braking area. Down into turn 8.
There you go.
And then you've got Jenson Button as well. Look at all that slower traffic he's going to make his way through. Who's got his next in his sights is that Sutil?
Yeah, we got a long line of cars. Vettel then coming around the outside of the Lotus of Jarno Trulli. Jenson Button keeping a watching brief, and Vettel goes in too deep. Button comes up the inside, makes the move stick. Vettel luckily saw him coming, and another stream of cars in the pits.
Yeah, indeed, we've got both the Ferraris in. They're going to have to queue up. Did I see that correctly? We've got Massa is in, and Alonso as well. Alonso's going to have to queue up behind. But he's just out of camera shot. Look at that. He's going to lose even more time.
Well spotted then, and nearly an unsafe release surely from Ferrari. So a bit of confusion. The Ferrari mechanic's looking down the pit lane like, what are you doing in here as well? But Massa then out, still behind Kobayashi. Heidfeld right behind them too. It's all kicking off out there as the track begins to dry. Ted was down there.
And that was an absolute nightmare. The Ferrari boys did the best they could, but Fernando Alonso lost loads of places there, including to Nico Rosberg. So he'll have to regain those places out on track. But with the Virgin, that's a case of them not knowing the rules. When you start a race under the safety car or restart a race, you have to have the full wet tyres on.
Thank you for that, Ted. And we got a Ferrari off. It's Fernando Alonso's beats the Ferrari. In where is that? Is that
that's
the
second chicane?
Yeah,
it's in turn 3, I think. Am I seeing that correctly? I think that's that's exit of 3,
it looks
4.
like 3 and 4.
Indeed.
Safety car has been deployed. Our favourite car of the day gets another look into this race. And look,
and Button's got a puncture.
Yeah, left front. I wonder if there was contact. They shouldn't have been so close on the road, should they? But so Button, McLaren's. Yes,
so
Vettel
is pitted.
I wonder then if Jenson Button and Fernando Alonso got together somewhere, and Vettel then again making the best of some free space at the front. It just all keeps falling into place, doesn't it, for Red Bull? And Sebastian Vettel, a set of intermediates go on, and again, effectively, that was as sweet as you want. Cream and almonds, that was beautiful pit stop, and he's got out front. It just... Now, let's have a look at this. So, yes, it was Button up the inside of Alonso. Alonso didn't want to yield, and contact.
Well,
that's Jenson's second contact of the afternoon, and we're going to see it now from behind the Mercedes. So Jenson up the inside of Fernando. Fernando says, you're not coming through there, and Jenson said, well, you watch this then, I am coming through. But unfortunately, Jenson with a damaged left front. Was it just a puncture? Will his steering arm be damaged? And will that tyre do any further bodywork damage as he coaxes it back to the pits?
How did you see that, Martin? Because that looked like there was enough room for them both to get through, but then obviously as it tightened through the apex, there was the contact.
Well, if you've got any, if you're on the curb, you just slide off on the slippery paint. That is a vacated cockpit then for Fernando Alonso. I wondered it, because if he gets pushed out of there, he's in a dangerous position. He might be allowed to carry on from there. Surprised he'd got out, really. So he would have just been ticking over there and hoping somebody might push him out of a dangerous position. But I
think he did back into the wall, though. There was some contact on the rear wing.
Yeah, true. Bits flicking off the McLaren of Button, who is in the pits for the 4th time, I believe it is, today. Make that 5. So it's 4 pit stops and a drive-through for Button for exceeding the speed limit behind the safety car early on, and Ted was down at McLaren.
Front suspension looks okay. The nose was damaged, as were the rims on the front left, but the mechanics and chief mechanic had a look at it, and the front suspension on the left side's okay.
Don't worry, Jenson, the race is just over half over at the moment. So plenty of time for him to, in the way this race is unfolding, who knows what's going to happen. Here then is a replay. Take us through it, David.
Well, Jenson's fairly on the inside, and I think that Fernando was of the view that if I give him room as we go through the apex, I'll be on the right position for the left-hand part of that second part of the chicane. But I think it was always going to be a bit of a closing gap. He was relying a lot on the fact that Jenson was able to slow the car, so I think we're going to have to call that a racing incident.
But it's only one at a time through there. It's hard enough by yourself through there, isn't it? But, I mean...
Well, it is, but those are two highly skilled guys, so you'd like to imagine that they'd be able to find a way through it. Definitely Fernando gave him space to have his car in there. You could argue that he was sort of trying to recover a lost position, but that's what you're meant to do in racing situations.
Well, Fernando Alonso was 5th in the World Championship with 69 points coming into this Grand Prix, and he will score no points today. So let's remind you of the running order then now. That's all shaken out. We've got 3 cars out of the race. Fernando Alonso, Heikki Kovalainen, Lewis Hamilton. Jenson Button is out, I believe, in last place now, which is 21st after his various dramas. He will catch the pack, and he will, though, be 21st. Vettel then, on lap 39, leads from Kobayashi in the Sauber. Felipe Massa 3rd for Ferrari. Nick Heidfeld 4th for Renault. Paul Di Resta now up to 5th for Force India. Mark Webber gains a place to 6th for Red Bull. Michael Schumacher, I've seen lots of overtakes from him, especially into turn 6. He's 7th. Petrov 8th for Renault. Rosberg 9th in the other Mercedes-Benz. Sutil in the 2nd. Force India is 10th. Rubens Barrichello is 11th. Maldonado for Williams, their line astern now, the 2 Williams, is in 12th place. Alguersuari and Buemi, Toro Rosso also 13th and 14th. D'Ambrosio, we saw him come in for those intermediates earlier. I assume he's taken his penalty, but at the moment he's showing in 15th place. You're not allowed to take a penalty during the safety car period. He may have to take that afterwards. I don't know, I haven't been watching him. The incident is under investigation. We've got a replay going on here of cars
Massa passing Heidfeld.
Yeah,
what was going on there? Heidfeld must have passed him on track.
Yeah, but Massa was ahead of him, wasn't he, in the queue? So just to finish that off then, Glock 16th, De La Rosa back to 17th. He was 9th on the restart. Safety car will come in this lap. Jenson Button is, well, of course, Jenson's restricted to this safety car speed now, isn't he? So he'll struggle to catch the pack too much, but he might be there by the time they get underway. So Jenson way out back at the moment. So Karthikeyan and Liuzzi for Hispania still both running, and they're in 19th and 20th. And that then is the Button-Alonso incident under investigation that you call, David, as a racing incident.
Well, remarkably, that's the first time Alonso hasn't finished since Spa last year, so he's had a good run of getting to the checkered flag. I think we need to look more closely at that. You know, we need a few more camera angles to see whether he was just closing, he's just closing the door too much on Jenson. Because once he's committed, Jenson had the inside line. He can't make his car disappear all of a sudden because Fernando wants to keep ahead.
I learned that lesson 2 weeks ago in Monaco when we saw different angles after the race of the Hamilton-Maldonado incident, and it looked completely different, didn't it? And Vettel bolts once more. Kobayashi asleep once more, but Massa is not. Massa's right with him. And to remind you, when they get to this safety car line, they can start doing some overtaking, but Kobayashi's laid enough on the brakes. Heidfeld looking pretty punchy behind Massa as well, and lots of action going on down the...
And Jenson Button has just about caught the back of the snake as he crosses the line. He's a couple of seconds adrift, but he'll be right in amongst the action. He'll be looking to pick off those 2 HRTs that are bringing up the rear. As we see once again, Sebastian Vettel, he just seems to be able to ace those restarts every time.
Says here that the track surface is slippery in sector 11. It looks pretty slippery in all the sectors to me, as Mark Webber then fends off the Schumacher move down into turn 6, and the old Rainmeister himself, Michael Schumacher, looking pretty handy this afternoon.
Yeah, he'll be happy with the progress he's making. Currently in 7th place and running well offline under the bridge, looking for that area with least amount of rubber. Interesting that Mark Webber was absolutely on the normal racing line there, so why can he find grip there that Michael can't?
Paul Di Resta defending against Mark Webber too. It's so easy to lose a front wing, isn't it, in these circumstances, or just lock a brake. You have to brake late into that hairpin, otherwise you'll be mugged. But Michael Schumacher dropped back a little bit there. Mark Webber in the slipstream of Paul Di Resta. Di Resta in only his 7th Grand Prix, doing a fine job and having a good look too at the back of Nick Heidfeld. So Vettel will cross the line shortly into lap 42, and his lead is 1.5 seconds over Kobayashi. Massa third, Heidfeld fourth, Di Resta fifth, Webber sixth, Schumacher seventh, Petrov eighth, Sutil ninth now, Maldonado 10th for Williams, his teammate Barrichello just behind him.
Well, what's going to be interesting, just coming back to the Di Resta-Webber battle, is that Di Resta's top speed is about 4k quicker.
Let me know about rear right pressure, puncture.
Looks good at the moment still, Nico, still looks good.
So there's been some contact. Nico's worrying if he's got a puncture. So he obviously did have an incident somewhere, but we're about to... Are we about to see? Is it contact with Sutil or something restart, on the... Yeah. Oh, what I was talking about earlier on, isn't it? How you can break your ring, your front wing, and that was behind the safety car. So now Rosberg then has got Barrichello for company. This is a replay. Barrichello taking the position. All going horribly wrong for Nico Rosberg.
Well, it wasn't exactly going well for Adrian Sutil. You're going to lose your front wing end plate running into the back of a car.
Webber wide. Webber well out of shape on the outside. Michael Schumacher then is turn 11. He just cruises past Mark Webber. Too hot on the throttle. And Michael Schumacher takes over 6th place there from Mark Webber. As Di Resta up the inside. Oh, damaged front wing. Paul, you've broken the front wing there. So Di Resta sort of half-heartedly left his front of his car in the action there, but surely that's going to give him horrible understeer. It is. Look at that, can barely get into turn 1.
Yeah. Well, the worst place for him to happen is just where he can't make the turn into the pit lane. He now has to do a full lap where he'll be losing chunks of time. So disappointment for Paul.
Inexperience there, because there was a half-hearted move, wasn't there? It's like a half-hearted football tackle. You can't do it. You've either got to make
it's very
move.
wide in 5. He's got to be careful he doesn't get sucked out into the barrier there.
So Schumacher and Webber go through, and he will get a new front wing when he gets to the pits. He's going to be mid-pack. That's, as you say, as long as he doesn't throw it in the barriers. Meanwhile, he's still fighting there with Petrov. But he needs to be careful, because under braking he'll have... Look, he's locked his wheel. No. He'll have so much less grip under braking. So Di Resta holding sort of midfield station there then. Petrov's past him now. And now Mark Webber coming back, and Michael Schumacher. So the incident between Button and Alonso will be investigated after the race. We're reading. And what a great fight going on there. Two old hands. Michael Schumacher, Mark Webber in challenging conditions. Kobayashi holding Massa off very nicely indeed. And a long line of cars into that final chicane. Plenty of grip. They're pulling a bit of lateral through there now, David. They've got some grip. And this, I'm afraid, was just clumsy from Paul. We'll give him credit where it's due, but that's not good driving. There's no point in taking that risk, in my view.
That's one of the fastest points of the track. He's made his decision before braking to have a little sniff up the inside, and unfortunately it was always going to be an ever-closing door.
But it was a half-hour. You've got to slice past them, haven't you? Stop them turning in, and then make your turn into the corner.
Well, that is true, but sometimes you've got to sort of position yourself where he's going to brake, it's wet, he will brake early, and I'm just going to brake that bit later, and you hope you sail down the inside and sort it all out before the apex. But we've got a drive-through penalty for car 14, which is Adrian Sutil overtaking behind the safety car. Well, I didn't see the overtake behind the safety car, but I definitely saw him ramming Nico Rosberg under the safety car, so he was going for all the penalties.
Nick Heidfeld then is about to have his mirrors full of Michael Schumacher and Mark Webber. Webber looking like, although he made that mistake at the hairpin to let Schumi through, that Red Bull doesn't appear to have great traction at any point in this race. Button's making his way back up to 15th at the moment from the back of the field.
That's interesting. Mark Webber running offline. When we watch him through this last chicane, he's struggling for drive off the hairpin. He's struggling for drive off the last chicane relative to Michael Schumacher. It's almost as if they're overheating those intermediate tyres relative to the Mercedes.
Well, I think that's a problem they've had. We've got so little knowledge about these tyres. They had a very wet test day in Barcelona. We had one practice session in Istanbul, and I think this is an adventure for everybody to see how far the tyres will go and what is the crossover point when you think about putting slicks on. And I think that's going to be a very, very difficult decision indeed.
Fernando Alonso, he's wandering back to his garage. I'm surprised he's not swamped by team personnel or even our man Ted, who's down there on the pit lane.
Yeah, well, I'm at McLaren. He's coming towards me. I don't know if he's going to shoot some dark looks in here or maybe come looking for a bit of afters. But at Mercedes...
Come on, let's get him out of the way. As quick as you can get past him, then we'll get on Vettel.
At Mercedes, they're readying some tyres because Michael Schumacher has been 10 laps on this set of tyres. He was the first one to pit on lap 34 for these Inters, and we believe these Inters only last 10 laps or so. So it might be the case that Michael's tyres have gone.
So the intermediates are beginning to overheat. The tread blocks move around, David, don't they, and generate extra heat. It's a different type of rubber compound.
Well, there's only 5 millimetres of tread depth on the intermediate tyre, but as Ted's just quite rightly said there, one of the projections that we've had from Pirelli and from the teams is Michael Schumacher really hits the curb on the way into that last chicane, and he's in front of Heidfeld. So Michael Schumacher is the man on the move right now. He's going to be in 4th place at the end of this lap.
With the new fastest lap of the Grand Prix on a 1:29.2, but remember in qualifying we were seeing times down in the 1:13s and 1:14, so we're still a long way away from a drive. DRS has now been enabled, so they've decided in race control that despite everybody being on wets when DRS is not normally allowed, they've decided the track is in a suitable condition that DRS is enabled. So and it's a double DRS here. If the measurement point is on the exit of the turn 10 hairpin, and you get one shot at it all the way down the third, I think it's 13 seconds of full throttle towards the final chicane, and then you get a second bite of DRS, even if you've overtaken the other driver, down to the first corner, which I think would be proper scary if you see them going down in there side by side, one with his rear wing open until he hits the brake pedal. But Nick Heidfeld then still fighting off Mark Webber, and now Petrov. But we've got another investigation of De La Rosa and Heidfeld that the stewards are looking at, so hopefully young Paul is not going to...
It's Paul di Resta and Heidfeld, actually. Yep.
Yeah, and hopefully Heidfeld and De La Rosa... Di Resta, sorry, not going to get another drive through there. But it's Kobayashi then fighting off Massa, who's just been told to get on with it. Get him out, move him out of the way, was the exact instruction.
Well, Massa's done the fastest lap of the race so far, and we've got Mark Webber, who's certainly within the DRS activation point, as Nick Heidfeld gets a little bit off the dry line there. I can't imagine he was trying to cool his tyres in the run between the first and second chicane, but he's under a bit of trouble. Michael Schumacher's pulling away from them. That's allowing Petrov to close the gap.
Look at Schumacher's first sector time, 24.7. That's 3/10 quicker even than the leader.
That was a bit careless by Mark there. He got a bit wide on the way into turn 6 there, and then he's dropped. Look, he's lost the gap now to Heidfeld. It's going to be difficult for him to get within 1 second when he gets into turn 10 to get into that activation point.
Yeah, the measurement point instead is on the exit of the turn 10 chicane, not on the way in, so you can't just banzai the brakes and then get the pleasure, as Webber's still looking for the damper part of the race.
He's in the zone though. He's pulled it back.
Well, let's have a look on there. There's the white line, and then you're absolutely right, he's well within a second, but again, that Red Bull does not have the traction of the Renaults. We saw that in the earlier part of the race, and he did. He's got the rear wing wide open. He got Petrov all over his gearbox, and Webber then should have the straight line speed advantage with the DRS open, and Petrov then has to fall back in behind. So unfortunately for Petrov, his teammate hurt him there because his fellow Renault driver Heidfeld enabled Webber to get that wing open, and as you saw, he had it open again down into turn 1, but for some reason the Red Bull, it's fast around the lap, but it doesn't have the traction in these difficult conditions, and we've seen that from the beginning of the afternoon.
The difficulty now, we're actually getting dry lines appearing around the track, but you just don't want to be the guy that risks getting those slick tyres on, and if you get a little bit offline, of course, it's so unforgiving, this place. So I suspect that we're going to listen to Massa.
Okay, apparently the last time you were pressing the button too early, so you didn't get the DRS for all the straight. Trying to activate it in the right point.
You're not allowed to pre-select the DRS, so you can't activate it until you've gone past the point that it's available to you. Schumacher's absolutely flying, just 10 seconds off the lead at the moment, but Vettel peerlessly out front, 5.5 seconds clear of Kobayashi, who's 1 second exactly clear of Felipe Massa. And the stewards are going to better cancel their planes home, I think, because they're going to be very busy tonight. There's Nico Rosberg and Adrian Sutil, for obviously Sutil presumably running into the back of him behind the safety car, and Webber having a look at the back of Heidfeld. Webber can use the DRS down the pit straight as well, but he's just nowhere near him in the traction zone. Again, look at the rear wing wide open. Webber cleaning his visor as well at 185 miles an hour, trying to spot the braking point for this tricky turn one. So those Renaults, as you said earlier on, David, they've always been good in these. And Jenson Button then up to P12 and right on the back of Maldonado and Alguersuari. Michael Schumacher, new fastest lap of the race at 27.5, 1 minute 27.5, 4 tenths quicker than even Vettel, who still leads by 5.5. Button up the inside, thinks better of it this time. That's what cost him dearly before when he tried to go up the inside of Fernando Alonso there. It's like train tracks now, isn't it? Ooh, that looked a bit wide.
Maldonado was very wide there as he went into turn 5. He missed his turning point, and there we have Alguersuari getting very wide as well on the exit. But turn 6 and 7. Yeah, he's made got rid of Maldonado. He might have a little sniff down the inside, but it's quite bumpy under the bridge here into turn 8. So I think he'll get himself positioned on the run down to 10. Struggling for traction off the corner there relative to the Toro Rosso. So I expect to see him close up as we get through the braking here into turn 10. Right, is he
gone wide?
Yeah, no, he doesn't even need to be at the activation point. But he's pushed wide onto the water, so he would have struggled with traction off the turn. But there he can open his wing now,
which he hasn't done, has he? Yes, he has now. Now he's got some speed, slipstream.
Buemi forcing him to the outside.
Oh, he's straight through.
Oh, that was easy.
Yeah.
If it ever can be on changeable conditions, he made it look easy. And he gets that other hit, as you quite rightly pointed out, and easily pulls away down into the first chicane.
Michael Schumacher's been off the track at turn 8 and continued, so he's made a mistake. He's responded now with a new fastest first sector to try to recover some of that ground. Vettel leads on lap 50 by 6.2 seconds from Kobayashi, who's a mere 0.8 ahead of Felipe Massa. Schumacher 10.5 seconds off the lead now in 4th place after that error on the previous lap. Vettel then, well, he seems to be coping with the tyres, but so careful on the throttle, short shifting, getting up into a higher gear not to generate wheel spin. He starts looking for the water on the side of the track, and of course that soon begins to disappear as the other drivers do the same thing. The coolant that he needs is just sitting there on the side of the racetrack. We've got a drive-through penalty for Paul Di Resta for causing an avoidable collision, unfortunately, again. Let's hear what Vettel says.
Sebastian, we'll need to know when we are within 3 laps of going to drive, because you will make the difference to your safety car reaction. Tell us when you think we're within 3 laps of going to drive.
I think we're not far off.
That's understood. Keep us updated.
Not far off. Mark Webber thinks he's right there already because he's in the pits, and I'm expecting a set of dries to go on that. They're the super soft option compound, and now we're going to see something.
That's a brave decision, but that's the sort of thing that can make the big difference here for Mark Webber this afternoon.
That's if he makes it to the racetrack. Fishtailing out of the pit lane. Ted.
Barrichello is also out on the super soft dry tyre, but the guinea pig was Adrian Sutil. He came in first and is tentative out there, and now Di Resta's just gone out on inters. He's serving his drive-through, and a Toro Rosso's gone on dries as well. But check Sutil, see what his times are.
Well, I can tell you Sutil's times are not good. He's got a left rear puncture, right rear puncture.
This is Massa side by side with Kobayashi for second place, and Michael Schumacher. Looks like he's gone past a pair of them. So lots of action then, and absolutely wild oversteer there. So Schumacher has passed Massa and Kobayashi, and surely emerges in second place in the Grand Prix now. Schumacher absolutely flying, brilliant driving. And how much longer does he think he wants to go Meanwhile, Vettel's done the fastest lap of the race on a 1:26.4, so he's still happy with the tyres. And we'll keep an eye on Webber, who's done his personal best middle sector of the Grand Prix on the slicks already. So he seems initially pretty happy. Schumacher, 11.6 seconds off the lead now. He's in first place. So this is where it all went wrong for Kobayashi. He's gone wide in turn 8. Contact there with Massa. Michael Schumacher sneaks up the inside while they're busy watching each other and takes second place in the Grand Prix.
Well, you're getting an overhead shot there again. Not much that Kobayashi could do other than get back on the track, and that just allows Michael the momentum. He would be grinning inside that helmet. This is by far and away, I think, his strongest performance to date this year.
Wunderbar.
Yeah.
And that then is Button, who presumably is just pitted for slicks.
Indeed he has, as is Alguersuari, Maldonado, and we've got Glock in the pit as well.
That's Jenson's 6th trip through the pits today, once for a penalty and 5 times to change his tyres.
We've got Mark Webber, the first man who go on slicks, has now done his personal best in the first sector as well. It's only 4/10 away from the current fastest first sector, so I think we can expect all of the cars to be pitting now in this next lap.
That's Sutil, I think, with left rear suspension damage. We saw while Ted was updating us from the pit lane.
Michael Schumacher's in. Sorry, Martin, to shout over. We've got Felipe Massa in as well. You can see from our commentary box. Kobayashi's gone past. So that could well be costly for the Sauber driver.
And look at this. Vettel's just done a 27.3. Kobayashi a 1:27.4. Red Bull, he's got a 13.6 second lead over Kobayashi as Michael Schumacher exits the pits. Still ahead of Felipe Massa. Well, they made us wait for this action, but it's pretty good. Now we're getting into it.
Well, it is indeed, and Mark Webber has gone fastest in the middle sector, so it is absolutely clear, as we see Michael Schumacher and Felipe Massa struggling for traction out of the pit lane. Of course, they're having to run on wet track, losing temperature from the slick tyres.
1:24.6 for Webber. That's massively quicker than the leader. Vettel has to come in this lap. He has no option, surely. Schumacher then out on the slicks, now behind Rosberg, who's still on the intermediates, and the Hispania just either frightened off the road or getting out of the way there. Schumacher on a charge. He pitted from second place. Petrov hasn't pitted. He's up in third at the moment, and Webber absolutely flying. Michael getting, and we got a damaged nose front wing there on Felipe Massa as Mark Webber goes through and is setting fastest sector after fastest sector. Cars off all over the place as they're trying to find grip on their tyres, and so Felipe Massa's been in the wars with somebody or something rather firmer than the front, and the race leader pits then for a fresh set of super soft tyres. They do not have to use both compounds in this race now because it's been a wet race. That regulation falls away, so they can keep running the soft tyre till the end of the Grand Prix, if we ever get to the end of this Grand Prix. And we watch Heidfeld then coming down into the final corner, and it looks pretty certain that Massa's been in the wall, doesn't it, with that amount of damage.
Well, here we are on the exit of turn 7, and he gets out onto the water, and of course on the slick tyres he's just aquaplaned.
Yeah.
And now he's having trying to get past an HRT.
Yeah, zooming past, and he basically just bounced down the wall.
Yeah. Well, meanwhile they changed the front wing. I tell you, there's some tasty action brewing between Mark Webber and Michael Schumacher. Mark was only 0.4 of a second behind Michael last time past, and there we are joining that action. So would he risk running off the line? Would these engineers tell him, be careful if you try and do an Alonso, sorry?
Yeah. Button's done the fastest lap of the race. Of fuel as we now once again get the battle between Michael Schumacher and Mark Webber. Button's absolutely flying out there in 7th place. Let me just remind you, you can see the bottom of your screen as the curves are working nicely out there. Still working for Webber, who did not have that facility in qualifying. Webber with his rear wing wide open, comes to the inside for the final chicane, thinks better of it, ducks back. Will he have to go across the runoff? He does indeed. He'll be so slow on the exit across the wet track. So Mark Webber then just getting a little bit too hot. Of course, you arrive a bit faster, David, with that wing open. You've got to brake slightly earlier.
Well, he'll gain about 15 kilometres an hour, then he'll have the slipstream as well. But can't help but feel that he might have shot his bolt a bit too early there. You know, you're no point showing your hand to Michael. You either pass him or you stay in your, keep your car on line. So it'll be interesting to see. I expect he'll get back on Michael's gearbox pretty quickly. He is in the faster car in these dry conditions. Well, on the racing line it's dry anyway.
So we're on lap 55 of 70 then. Somehow we just got 15 laps to go. That's gone quickly, hasn't it? Vettel leads on his out lap was a 1:32, including that pit stop, but he had a 10.7 second lead over Michael then. That's about where it was before the pit stop phase. Webber up into third, Kobayashi showing fourth at the moment. Button now in P5, streaming back through the field as the drivers dance these cars across the wet patches, desperately trying to find some purchase in the racetrack, get those slick tyres biting into the tarmac. And so easy here to lock a brake and just slam into the driver in front of you. So Button then absolutely flying out there. His current sector times at just on the lap he's on is a second and a half faster than Vettel, who's leading, and he's 20 seconds off the leader at the moment. Button is flying. Let's keep an eye on that. So is Mark Webber now. He's just 0.3 behind Michael Schumacher. Schumacher's closed the gap to Vettel by 2 seconds on that lap. Vettel extremely cautious on his first flying lap. The problem is now the damp patch is offline, David.
Yeah, getting offline, as we've seen from Felipe Massa.
He's going to touch him.
Tonkat, he's broken his front wing. It's like none of these guys know where their front wing is.
Oh,
right.
There's a surprise.
Yeah, thankfully there's plenty of runoff down there. And he parks it nicely out the way, so I don't expect any safety car unless there's some debris on the track. But
yeah, that's a scary thing when you run over your own front wing, because you've got no brakes, no front wing, all at the same time. So it's Nick Heidfeld then. He got on the throttle. He got so much grip from that Renault in the slow corners. He just plain ran into the back of him as he was waiting for Kobayashi to pick the throttle up. It looks silly, but it's actually very easy to do, isn't it? I've done it myself.
It is, and that was a little bit scary, but thankfully one of the areas in the track where there is a runoff area, he was able to go down. It'll be interesting to see if Kobayashi's got any damage to the rear of his car. But obviously massively frustrating for the Renault guys because they were looking for a good result here this weekend. But once again, we're back with a battle with Mark Webber and Michael Schumacher. But can he get offline to pull a pass?
Look at Button catching them like crazy, though. He's P4 now. So Button then on a 20.2. He's 2 seconds quicker than the leader, Vettel. Bit of traffic ahead of him with, I think it's D'Ambrosio in the Virgin, and Jenson's got to tiptoe so carefully off the racing line as they see the yellow flags there, and bits of it's so easy to pick up a puncture.
Well, it is, and normally that would be enough for them to throw a safety car for fear of carbon things. Yes, we have. We've got a safety car out.
I hope they've refueled that safety car in the meantime. It's done a lot of laps today, but I think that's a sensible move, actually, and because they really, have they picked up the leaders? No, the leader is down. Well, of course, this is interesting. This works beautifully, doesn't it? Because it just closes the pack up. Schumacher, Webber and Button, who are all lapping significantly faster than Sebastian Vettel, will now cruise up right behind him for yet another safety car restart. Ted?
Well, it is good, Martin, as Jarno Trulli just comes out the pits on a new set of dry tyres, super soft dry tyres. But for Jenson Button, that's bad, because the reason he was going so quickly was because he was the first one onto this tyre on lap 51, onto the dry tyre. That's why he had good heat in it. We've seen from qualifying why it takes so long for actually to get heat in. So Jenson was flying, as you say, and overtook Heidfeld. Vettel struggling to get temperature, but now that fight's been neutralised.
Well, I still think Jenson will be he was 13 seconds adrift of the leader, albeit catching at 2 seconds a lap. And a lot of that work's now going to be done for him as they pick their way through the debris. And all the sharp edges of the broken carbon fibre that gets sent up in the sky like confetti when it's broken up as it travelled underneath the Renault. As Heidfeld's Renault digested its own front wing. And you can hear that's the rough sounding engines where they go onto 4 cylinders for better traction through the exit, and they're feeding the underneath of the car with hot exhaust gases to help the downforce. And yet another device to clear cars off the track. It's an old-fashioned style circuit. There's no real service road here. Barriers are right alongside the racetrack. And let's just remind ourselves then of where everybody's at. while it calms down. Still, they haven't picked up Vettel with the safety car. They're about to do so. They let the lapped runners go through, and this is a replay of the Heidfeld incident.
Yeah, it looks like Kobayashi got a little bit wide as he went through turn 2, hesitated at full power. Heidfeld, on the other hand, absolutely aced the apex and said, right, I'll get on the power, and it didn't happen. And then the end result, of course, was the front wing fell under the car and sent him as a passenger. So here again, look, he gets wide onto the wet, and Nick Heidfeld hasn't recognised that.
Well, don't forget, they now throttle on in the slow corners. That's why, David, that you know, you've got this unusual situation. You'd never used to go through a slow corner with your foot buried into the throttle.
Randomly nearly stopped in turn 2. I don't know what he was doing there.
Okay, Nick, understood.
Well, I think we can tell him what he was doing. He had 2 wheels out on the damp patch. Yeah. He'd made a mistake.
But I know a lot of drivers will say that well, he brake tested me. But we don't believe that the Sauber has the hot blown exhaust. They don't use that throttle on in the slow corner. I feel very sorry for Nick Heidfeld there, but because all he was trying to do was use the grip of his car. And we're on lap 59. Vettel leads from Schumacher, Webber third, Button fourth, Kobayashi fifth, Petrov sixth, Barrichello now seventh. We've got a Marshall.
That's not pretty, is it? You haven't rehearsed that.
What's going on?
He decided to not pick up anything. He got halfway out in the middle of the track.
Where's all the brooms that were sweeping the water away an hour ago? Where were we? Button fourth, Kobayashi fifth, Petrov sixth, Barrichello seventh, Alguersuari eighth, Rosberg ninth, Maldonado 10th in the final points paying position. Felipe Massa has recovered from that nose change up in 11th, Buemi 12th, Della Rosa 13th, Di Resta 14th after his various penalties. Glock 15th, D'Ambrosio 16th, Liuzzi 17th, Karthikeyan 18th, Trulli 19th, and out of the Grand Prix then, you did just see a caption, I'll run through it again. Nick Heidfeld, Adrian Sutil, Fernando Alonso, Heikki Kovalainen, Lewis Hamilton. We have 19 runners somehow remaining in this Grand Prix.
And I think we have got ourselves an incredible grandstand finish to this race, because Sebastian Vettel looks like he's got the pace to control things there. But under normal dry weather conditions, which the racing line is, Michael Schumacher has not been as quick as Mark Webber or Jenson Button. The man on the move just before that safety car was Jenson Button. The pace was incredible. So does Sebastian Vettel have enough in hand to open out a little bit of a gap? Does Michael Schumacher have enough to keep it on the racing line and make it difficult for Mark Webber and Jenson Button? So Mark's in a situation where before he was the predator, he's now become the prey.
I think it's the third time here that we've had 4 safety cars in this Grand Prix. I think 2007 was the last time, but we haven't finished yet. There's still plenty of debris about there, David, especially as that's an overtaking spot down into 3, although it's still a little bit damp out there.
What is the which version is that between Webber and Button? It's Glock. Is currently between.
Yeah, and they don't get waved past now, do they?
No.
Like they used to. It took too long. They used to wave. I think it's possibly safety cars in this lap. It's possibly still in the regulations, but they don't.
How long had Vettel and the 2 cars in front been on the slicks? Okay, Jenson Vettel put his slicks on 2 laps after us. Jenson Webber 1 lap before us.
And I suppose Jenson was hoping that they put their tyres on several laps before him, but that's not the case. They're all on pretty much the same age of tyres. They won't have obviously hit them as hard as they would under normal dry conditions.
Well, the man they used to call the new Schumacher, who has very much become the current Sebastian Vettel, fending off. He leads the restart for the 4th time this afternoon, fending off a man who must have been and remains a great hero to him, Michael Schumacher, in 2nd place, and he's legged it again off the hairpin, which he likes to do. He's given the safety car enough of a margin. He wants to get down to that safety car line without Michael Schumacher. DRS is not enabled at this time. Schumacher down the outside there, and yellow flags waving for some reason, presumably our restart, and Button has cleared the back marker, and Webber again all over the back of Michael Schumacher. This is going to be a titanic scrap, isn't it? But Vettel was being too cautious before on the slicks. He was out front, but they were catching him hand over fist. Michael with two wheels on the damp as he goes through turn 5.
Well, he's got mirrors full of Mark Webber, and Mark Webber's soon to have a mirror full of Jenson Button. So as you say, Martin, these first 2 laps there'll be no DRS, so there's no special tools to give you that extra speed on the straight, so you're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way if you can pull a pass.
Button's up in 4th place. He's been through the pit lane 6 times this afternoon. Somebody's going to have to sit him down at the end and just explain to him what on earth went on. But Webber so close to Michael Schumacher, but gets on the brakes earlier. Schumacher very late on the brakes there. And Jenson Button surely would have smelled a bit of an opportunity there with Webber braking so early.
Yeah, but it's damp on the inside, so he knows he's got 9 laps left. He doesn't need to go risking it on this lap.
No DRS yet until we've had 2 laps of the restart. It's not enabled. Schumacher surely driving the best race since his comeback. Fending off now Webber and Button as they cross the line. Vettel's pulled out a 2.2 second lead as these 3 are busy watching each other.
Yeah, this seems to be that Michael has really good drive off the corners. He may not be quite as quick in the turns. You see Mark Webber there, just actually going against what I was saying on the run out of turn 2. But crucially, at the latter part of the lap, where the DRS activation point is, that down at turn 10, Michael Schumacher seems to be able to get off that turn well. But the real issue now is Mark Webber has got Jenson Button all over the back of him.
It's going to be a damn dear move, isn't it, on the damp stuff for somebody to have a go. But it's really hard to stay in the train tracks, the narrow drive.
But you just don't want to touch, even by 10 millimetres, because you know it's going to suck you into it, and then your history. Look at the amount of water off the racing line. There's Corinna Schumacher, Michael's wife. She doesn't want to be watched. She wants to watch the television. Is this going to be the dream that everyone imagined when Michael Schumacher made his comeback, that he'd be up on podiums?
8 laps to go as they start this new lap. Michael Schumacher then, he so badly wants a comeback podium, doesn't he, to justify his decision. And the yellow flags are waving. What's going on in turns 1 or 2? Can't see anything at the moment. Presumably somebody's just spun and recovered. The yellows are still out. Now they've got green.
Well, there's something in the background in turn 2. We could see some activity from the marshals, but not enough for the director to get onto it.
But car 12 has stopped in there, which is Maldonado. Okay. Maldonado has stopped somewhere, having just pitted actually in the first part of the lap. Schumacher's now 3 seconds behind Vettel. Vettel got on with it on this restart, and it's now, I think, a question of which 2 of these 3 are going to be. Oh, look at that, it's so wide, but there's enough grip out there. Schumacher really ringing it out.
He was extremely wide there, but also Mark Webber, and it looked like he had to get out of the power slightly on the run down to turn 10. And you've got to say, yeah, DRS is active.
So now we're going to see how effective it is. Remember, it's 2 straights here, from the hairpin down to the final chicane, and again all the way down into the first corner. And Michael Schumacher is a sitting target. Look at the difference it's making. Webber goes down the outside. He's locked his left front. Can he get through the... Well,
he's going to have to give that position back. He'll have to allow Michael back past. But look at Jenson Button's got DRS, presumably.
Yes, he will have it because he was close behind, but Webber must give that place back, I would say, otherwise he'll get a penalty. He surely gained the place by as they clear Maldonado's Williams away. And there he goes, but he's got to not let Button through at the same time. Can he?
Schumacher também que está devolvendo a posição. Agora com você, Galvão Bueno.
Bem, amigos da Rede Globo, vamos lá para os minutos finais. Temos aí 7 minutos. Olha, muita emoção. O Vettel já disparou na frente. O Vettel abriu 3.7 e aí vale a briga, né? O Schumacher é o segundo, o Webber é o terceiro, o Button é o quarto. O Petrov é o quinto, o sexto é Kobayashi, o sétimo é Rosberg, o oitavo é o Alguersuari, o Massa é nono mesmo tendo batido e Barrichello vem na 10ª posição. Nós vamos ter, estão marcando pelo tempo, porque eles estão na volta número 64, 7 minutos e 42 agora. Não dá para completar essa volta e depois fazer mais 6 voltas. Agora, o pega é bom, tem carro o Webber para passar o Schumacher. O Schumacher fez milagre enquanto a pista estava molhada. A batida do Felipe Massa, ele foi para a ultrapassagem, tinha recém colocado os pneus secos, tirou do trilho, foi para o molhado, perdeu o carro, bateu, recolocou o bico. E a perseguição do Weber é duríssima em cima e outra vez ele errou. Já é a terceira vez que ele erra e agora ele vai perder a posição pro Button. E o Jenson Button, agora que o Schumacher dificilmente vai conseguir segurar o Jenson Button. Então a corrida do Button será histórica, porque o Button bateu com o Hamilton, o Button foi punido, bateu com o Alonso, foi punido, fez uma passagem pelo box, quer dizer, tem passagem a mais pelo box e tem tudo para chegar em segundo lugar.
Fez simplesmente 6 paradas de boxe, incluindo a punição.
Para que se tenha uma ideia, o Vettel tem 3 paradas, o Schumacher tem 4. E você vai ver que quase que o Button pega a traseira do carro do Weber ali, que tá valendo. O Weber errou 3 vezes seguidas naquela chicane que traz para a reta. E agora, olha só, parece não existir como, não tem como o Schumacher segurar o Button, a não ser que eles se achem pelo caminho. Tem muito mais carro, está muito mais rápido o Jenson Button.
Lembrando que a McLaren fez a aposta de configuração de asa, né, da pressão aerodinâmica, pensando na corrida e com pista molhada. Está comprovando que fez a decisão certa, pena que aquele toque entre Hamilton e Button prejudicou eles no resultado final.
Aí vem o Button, já tira de lado, faz a ultrapassagem em cima do Schumacher, já ocupa a segunda posição, então nós temos Vettel na primeira posição, com o Jenson Button em segundo. O Schumacher é o terceiro e mais uma vez será atacado pelo Weber. Se o Weber não fizer bobagem de novo, também passa o Schumacher. Eu repito, ele fez 3 bobagens seguidas, em 3 voltas seguidas, na mesma curva. O Petrov está 10 segundos atrás. 5 minutos, a volta do Jenson Button é melhor. A volta do Vettel é 1:20.3. A do Button é 1:18.8. É 1,5 segundos mais rápido. Ele vai chegar no Vettel nesse ritmo, hein? Ele vai chegar no Vettel nesse ritmo, o Jenson Button.
A facilidade com que ele passa o Schumacher, olha, é uma das melhores corridas que eu me lembro de ter visto o Jenson Button depois de passar a Corina, a mulher do Schumacher. Ele ficou desesperado, não gostou nem um pouco. Não gostou nem um pouco. E o Button, depois de ter sido, de tudo que aconteceu com a McLaren, provocado pelo Hamilton, ainda está fazendo uma corrida excepcional.
O Button tá chegando, ó.
O Button tá chegando, amigo. Ele foi meio segundo mais rápido na primeira parcial. Ele foi 6 décimos mais rápido na segunda. Eu tô para dizer que essa corrida do Button, apesar de 6 paradas no box, eu tô para dizer que essa corrida de Jenson Button, ele bateu com o Hamilton, ele bateu com o Alonso, ele tomou punição e ele tá voando. Ele perguntou no rádio quantas voltas tem o pneu do Vettel. Ele queria saber, que ele estava em quarto e já estava perguntando quantas voltas tinha o pneu do Vettel. O Felipe Massa ele passa para a 8ª posição, passou o Barrichello, passou o Alguersuari e agora vai tentar ir para cima do Rosberg. O Massa não podia ter dado aquela escapada, porque ele é que estava nessa briga, ele poderia estar nessa briga para tentar pegar o Vettel, porque o Vettel não está assim tão rápido. Mas
a Ferrari também se precipitou um pouquinho, né? Podia ter esperado um pouco mais para botar o pneu slick. Agora o Button faz de novo a melhor volta da corrida, olha o entusiasmo do pessoal da McLaren.
1,5 segundo mais rápido.
Ele foi 1,5 segundo mais rápido que o Vettel, já não há diferença. Olha só, ele está chegando. Ele está chegando. Quanto tempo nós temos para o final da corrida? Vamos ver aqui quanto tempo. 3 minutos. Isso quer dizer que eles vão dar essa volta mais uma e mais outra. E aí termina. E aí o Button vai. Agora o Vettel vai usar tudo que tem direito. Vai usar tudo que tem direito. O regulamento determina a corrida em 2 horas. O regulamento, mas se eles andam rasgando tudo, mas o regulamento determina a corrida em 2 horas.
Olha, tudo que o Vettel está tentando fazer, ele inclusive agora faz a melhor segunda parcial, você viu a alegria ali da
Weber
mulher,
passa o Schumacher.
Da mulher do Button. Tudo que o Vettel está tentando conseguir é reagir a esse ataque do Button para não permitir que o Button fique a menos de 1 segundo dele, para não poder usar a asa móvel.
Se ele tiver menos de 1 segundo, ele pode usar a asa móvel em 2 retas da pista. O Mark Webber passa o Schumacher, agora nós temos Vettel, Button e Webber, você vai ver a repetição aí. Dessa vez o Mark Webber não vai errar, quer ver? Olha só como ele abre a asa, ele mergulha, ele passa e dessa vez ele vai conseguir frear, porque 3 vezes ele fez isso e 3 vezes ele passou reto. Dessa vez ele conseguiu contornar por ali. E o Button tenta e o Vettel agora está respondendo. Amigo, o Vettel é fantástico. Sabe o que ele fez agora? Ele tem carro. Ele estava administrando. Daqui a pouco Fausto Silva vem aí com o Domingão do Faustão, tem dança dos famosos. Ele foi mais rápido no primeiro setor que o Button. Ele foi mais rápido 1 décimo. O Button foi mais rápido que ele 2 décimos no segundo setor. E agora eles vêm por aí. E a gente tem que ficar de olho, e vamos pedir para ficar de olho para ver se aparece sinal de última volta. Quando aparece, porque quando eles completarem esta volta, eles entrarão na volta de número 69. E aí pode ser que dê as 70 voltas, porque o tempo está por terminar, mas quando termina tem mais uma volta. Então eles podem sim. 1 minuto e 58, o Button faz a melhor volta, o Jenson Button faz a melhor volta, 1:17.218.
Agora, Galvão, ele consegue ficar 1.1 atrás do Vettel.
Deixa eu só explicar uma coisa aqui, Reginaldo. Eles não vão conseguir completar essa volta, que é de número 69, antes de terminar o tempo, mas aí você tem que fazer outra volta. Então nós vamos, por incrível que pareça, chegar no número de voltas.
E a McLaren acabou de falar pro Button uma coisa meio óbvia, mas vai que dá pra ganhar a corrida.
O Felipe Massa passou o Rosberg, está na 7ª posição e tenta partir para cima de Kobayashi. De resta bate. Ele estava mais para trás, o de resta estava na 12ª posição. Barrichello em 10º, voltou na marca-ponta, é tudo que ele pode fazer. E aí o Jenson Button tentando, travou o dianteiro direito ali. O Sebastian Vettel. Aí vem eles.
O que ele quer é poder usar a asa móvel aí, ó.
Aí ele pode.
Se tiver a menos de 1 segundo do Vettel.
Nesse ponto agora, ele estava 1.1 na volta anterior. Agora está lá. Ele pode, ele abriu a asa. 1.1 é quando passa na linha da reta do box. Aí eles vêm agora. Eles vêm para passar. A gente não vê o cidadão para ver se ele vai dar a bandeirada. Entrou, volta final. Eles estouraram o tempo. Estouraram o tempo no momento de passar a volta. Então tem que ter mais uma. Por isso vai dar 70 voltas. Aí vem eles, a briga pelo primeiro lugar. Olha onde é que vai o Vettel. Olha como vem o Button. O terceiro é Mark Webber. Schumacher é 4. Petrov é 5º. Opa. Jenson Button passa Sebastian Vettel. Botou de lado Sebastian Vettel e o Button passou. Histórica vitória de Button, se ela for confirmada, com 6 paradas no box, porque uma delas foi para punição, com 2 batidas. Bateu no Hamilton, bateu com o Alonso. E veja só que ele conseguiu, ele botou o Vettel no extremo limite da aderência do carro. Aí vem ele primeiro, o Vettel vem em segundo, o Webber vem em terceiro.
Vitória de campeão, Galvão.
Vitória de quem já foi campeão do mundo.
Exatamente,
Vitória.
não é qualquer um que ganha uma corrida dessa.
Absolutamente espetacular. Jenson Button é o nome dele. Aí vem ele, para quebrar a série de vitórias de Sebastian Vettel. Apontou no muro dos campeões para receber a bandeirada. Aí vem ele, Jenson Button, vibração da McLaren. Jenson Button vence o Grande Prêmio do Canadá. Espetacular a vitória de Jenson Button. Eu repito, ele estava em 4º, ele perguntou, Webber em 3º, Schumacher em 4º. Ele perguntou que pneus ele tem. Aí você vê o Felipe Massa que estava naquela briga lá atrás, deu uma escapada quando trocou os pneus, saiu do trilho. Ele ia tentar uma última vez aí para cima do Kobayashi, que ele tentou o tempo inteiro. Olha como ele foi para cima, para botar do lado, para tentar. Acelera, Felipe Massa botou o bico para chegar na 6ª posição. Valeu, Felipe. Para quem bateu, amigo. Para quem bateu, caiu para 14º. Consegui, ganhou por um bico.
E Rubinho 9º.
E Rubens Barrichello na 9ª posição. Que corrida é essa? Essa é a Fórmula 1, isso é o máximo do esporte motorizado. Você tem sonho, você é garoto, tem sonho. Se você puder, procura o kart para começar o kart. Depois vai atrás da Fórmula Futura do Felipe Massa. Depois tenta ir ou para a Europa ou para a Inglaterra. O caminho é esse. Esse grande Jenson Button, aí o John Button, o pai, a namorada do Jenson Button. Espetacular. Vamos para a classificação final. Olha só. Jenson Button, olha, é de arrepiar a vitória. Absolutamente brilhante. Uma corrida fantástica.
Nenhuma das 9 vitórias que ele tem foi tão espetacular como essa. Agora 10.
Ele agradece. Muito obrigado, rapazes. Obrigado demais. Grande corrida, grande ultrapassagem, grande tudo. Foi o que falaram para
assim, você nunca desistiu, apesar dos problemas, você nunca desistiu durante toda a corrida, então você conseguiu o que merecia.
E numa corrida em que o Hamilton, companheiro dele de equipe, fez tanta bobagem.
Muito bem, Jenson Button, vitória espetacular. A vibração do pai, da namorada e de toda a equipe. Vettel em segundo, Weber em terceiro. Schumacher foi quarto, Petrov em quinto e Massa conseguiu se recuperar, marcando a 6ª posição depois de ter batido e voltado na 14ª posição. Rubens Barrichello fez o papel dele em nono, voltando a marcar pontos. Grande corrida, vamos voltar pra galera do futebol onde a bola rolou, porque Fausto Silva tá prontinho com o Domingão no Faustão. Vem aí a dança dos famosos. Daqui a 2 semanas, Valência. Vamos esperar que seja uma corrida tão fantástica como essa. E o campeonato, 161 Vettel, 101 Button. Assume a 2ª posição e toma a 2ª posição do Lewis Hamilton. Vamos lá com a galera do futebol e depois Fausto Silva.
Coasting in, he finished 11th. He's got no nose on the car, no front wing on it. Button beats Vettel. Weber joining them on the podium. Michael Schumacher 4th, Petrov 5th, Massa 6th, Kobayashi 7th, Alguersuari fine effort in 8th, Barrichello 2 more points for Williams, Buemi 2 Toro Rossos in the top 10, Rosberg and De La Rosa. De La Rosa stepping in for Perez, finishes 12th. Liuzzi and Karthikeyan 13th and 14th. That's quite important for those smaller teams, isn't it, to get as high as that, because that might just, while they don't score points, they get a better championship position with those. So Liuzzi and Karthikeyan 13th, 14th, D'Ambrosio 15th, Glock 16th, Trulli 17th, and 17 finishers. I think Paul Di Resta will still be qualified as a finisher, albeit not running, in 18th place. What a race from Jenson Button. That's his 10th Grand Prix victory, and surely his sweetest.
That was a fantastic victory, there's no question. A lot of energy and emotion went into that. The contact with his teammate early in the race, the penalty that followed, the frustration he must have had in the cockpit, and then the moment came. Those are the conditions. We remember back a couple of years ago, Jenson's first victory for McLaren came in changeable conditions, and once again he's shown himself to be the master of keeping it into that very tight line. Very well deserved victory.
So we've been talking for 4 hours and 9 minutes so far, David. We're on air for another 20 odd minutes. We've got another investigation going on between 22 and 24. Karthikeyan and Glock join the queue, boys. There's going to be a very long queue at the headmaster's door.
Well, understandably disappointed looking Sebastian Vettel, but
second.
Sorry, Martin, just shaking Paddy Lowe. Paddy Lowe's hand there.
You were talking, I was butting in, sorry. And Weber then, your driver of the day.
You can't look beyond the winner. You know, I thought at one point we were going to say Michael Schumacher for comeback of the century, but there you see the winner walking down.
Life's a wonderful
as
thing.
On cue. He gets a round of applause from all the grid girls there, but yeah, what a fantastic drive from Jenson Button. It looked like it was all lost, and then he's well aware that you count the winners at the checkered flag.
Button second place now in the Drivers' Championship. Michael Schumacher up to 9th, ahead of Rosberg now, 26 points each actually. Di Resta with his 2 points there, 17th, the last point scorer.
Conversation there between Jenson and Paddy Lowe. I can't quite hear it. Can you hear that, Martin?
No. But you know, Vettel, that's the second race this year he hasn't won, but he finished a close second in both of them.
I'm sure he'll be disappointed, but there'll be a lot of Formula One fans around the world that welcome a new victor.
That final safety car did it for Vettel, didn't it? They closed the gap and Button pounced. Tearful John Button there. He's followed his son through karting, all the Formula. Minister of Transport there, Denis Lebel, hands over a hard-earned and most impressive trophy. Paddy Lowe, a man we both worked with, David. Good to see him up there. Raymond Bachand is the Minister of Finance and Revenue. Sebastian Vettel, second place trophy. So that's what they look like, is it? Gerard Tremblay, he's the mayor of Montreal. There's a drive-through penalty been given for Carter Cayenne. We're missing the corner and gaining an advantage at the end of the race while this is all going on. And Mark Webber, the ASN, the president of the Sporting Authority for Motorsport there, Roger Peart, handed that one over. And now it's time for Mum some champagne. It's going to be a very, very exciting evening for Jenson Button. He will celebrate, surely, one of the finest races of his life and the best Grand Prix of his spectacular career. A well-earned drink of the winner's champagne. Sensational commitment and skill and precision and bravery under braking. Button beats the Red Bull boys in the most spectacular fashion.
Je vous rappelle que les billets du Grand Prix du Canada 2012 sont maintenant en vente. Vous pouvez même vous en procurer dès aujourd'hui, ici même sur le site, à la billetterie près du métro, ou encore par téléphone 300 0000 ou sur le web www.circuitgd.fr.
This more race you're going to remember years from now, isn't it? We need that. We need dress. Not slash.
Go on the website www.circuitgd.ca. And we have priority status.
So here we have the top three finishers in the Canadian Grand Prix. The winner, Jenson Button, Vodafone McLaren Mercedes, 10th career victory and his first this season. Second, Sebastian Vettel, Red Bull Racing. And third, Mark Webber, Red Bull Racing. Jenson, amazing race, well worth waiting for the finish. You went from last to first, you collided with your teammate and Fernando Alonso, but what a race victory.
Yeah, I mean,
I really don't know what to say. You know, it's been a very emotional 3 hours, or however long it's been since the start. Obviously, the incident with Lewis, I couldn't see anything when he was alongside me. I couldn't see anything in my mirrors, so it was one of those things, and I've apologised to him. And then on, it was really a fight. You know, I got to drive through for speeding behind the safety car, and then I had to fight my way through about 3 times. Eventually, on the last lap, I was chasing down Seb. He ran a little bit wide onto the wet part of the circuit, and I was able to take the opportunity and take the win. But for me, a fantastic race, and I think even if I hadn't won today, I would have enjoyed this race immensely. But yeah, amazing win, and possibly my best.
Well done. Sebastian, another very high pressure finish for you, but this time it didn't go your way. How disappointed are you feeling right now?
Well, of course you're disappointed. I think it was a very difficult race from start to finish, and we led every single lap except the last one, or part of the last one. You know, I think I was probably too conservative when I was in the lead after the last safety car, and didn't open the gap enough, so I was trying to hold the gap to the cars behind. And then I saw Jenson coming through. I was pushing, and I think, you know, it would have been enough to the end, but obviously it was not, because I did a mistake. So it's clearly down to me. I locked up the rear a little bit. What you have to do then is open the car going a bit straighter, and when there's only one line, I ended up in the wet, and it was quite easy then for him to pass. But surely I think it's a good day today. It was a difficult race, easy to do mistakes. We've seen a lot of cars not finishing, so it's good points. But you know, at the moment, surely if you if you got it in your hands, then and then you give it away, it's not the sweetest feeling. But I think all in all, was a good race for us here.
Well done. Mark, you were the first to go onto the slick tyres, and then an unbelievable battle at the end with Michael Schumacher and with Jenson.
Yeah, I had to roll the dice a little bit. It was very hard to clear some of those guys with the dry line, you know, when you were trying to come through, and there's such a narrow window to get down the inside of people. Obviously, you have experienced guys like Michael and Heidfeld, and those guys, they know what they're doing, so thought I'd roll the dice. I was happy to see not everyone taking the next lap after me, because I thought they would be, so the 2 laps was enough to bring me back into the game for the podium. And then it was a pretty good fight with Michael. Again, it was difficult we wanted both the same bit of track, obviously, for the main point, braking for the chicane, so in the end got there, but when JB arrived, I mean, he was absolutely flying, and I was we were all trying to be as fair as we could. Obviously, I passed Michael through the chicane, so I had to get the position back. And in the end, I think these are the results we all deserve today. I think JB drove a great race. Obviously, Seb did a phenomenal job, but obviously it's easy to make a mistake in those conditions. And I think third's probably the maximum I could get today from after the first lap with Lewis hitting me.
Well done. Back to you, Jenson. Are you off to have a chat with Lewis and Fernando after this? And how will you be celebrating tonight?
I've already spoken to Lewis. And we both agreed that it's one of those things. I'm sure I'm going to have a busy afternoon here at the circuit, and then I'm definitely going to go and celebrate. You know, I'm going to enjoy Montreal with some good friends whose birthday was yesterday, and also Jessica's here, so and my old man. So I'm looking forward to it. Mikey Muscles, physio's here as well, so hopefully have a good night tonight and really enjoy what we achieved today, because it was an immense battle and a great result, and I've got to say a big thank you to the whole team for all the work they've done. And I think I must have pitted 8 or 9 times in this race, and they did a great job every time, so thank you very much.
Well done. Have a word from Sebastian, please. Your language.
Ja, im Moment überwiegt natürlich die Enttäuschung, wenn man gerade bei so einem schweren Rennen eigentlich von Anfang bis Ende eigentlich immer alles im Griff hatte und dann ein kleiner Fehler sich einschleicht mit den Bedingungen am Ende. Ist natürlich sehr leicht, dass der Fehler dann sehr viel kostet. Ich habe kurz die Hinterräder blockiert, musste dann das Auto aufmachen und war dann auf dem nassen Teil der Fahrbahn. So konnte der Jenson dann durchschlüpfen und am Ende hat es nur zum 2. Platz gereicht. Natürlich sind das gute und wichtige Punkte heute, aber klar, wenn man auf Sieg fährt, dann fuchst das dann schon ein bisschen, wenn es dann gerade in der letzten Runde nicht ganz reicht. Ich glaube, alles in allem war es ein schweres Rennen und wir haben immer unseren Kopf zusammengehalten und an uns geglaubt, und ich glaube, am wenigsten Fehler gemacht unterm Strich. Leider eben die meisten Runden angeführt, nur nicht die letzte. Trotzdem, glaube ich, war es ein wichtiger Schritt, und jetzt schauen wir, wie es die nächsten Rennen weitergeht. Danke.